Tonight, let us pause. Let us breathe. Let us look at the world we live in and the quiet storm that moves through our daily lives. Stress is everywhere. We chase money, yet never feel secure. We want love, but relationships break down. We long for peace, but anxiety follows us even into our sleep. This is the reality of modern life. A reality where silence is rare and rest feels like a luxury we cannot afford. Think of the morning rush. The alarm goes off, and already, before your feet touch the floor, your heart is racing. Emails, deadlines, bills, arguments left unresolved. There is always something pulling you forward, demanding more, asking you to run faster. And even when you achieve what you thought you wanted, a new demand rises. A new fear waits in the corner. The mind does not stop. It keeps whispering, not enough, not enough, not enough. This endless chase is not just tiring, it is painful. We feel it in our bodies as tension in the shoulders, tightness in the chest. We feel it in our emotions as anger, sadness, restlessness. We feel it in our relationships as distance, misunderstanding, silence that grows heavy between people who once loved each other deeply. And underneath it all, a quiet question waits. Is this all there is? In every generation, human beings have carried this same question. 2,500 years ago, a young prince asked it too. Surrounded by comfort, he saw sickness, old age, and death, and he knew that no wealth could protect him. His name was Siddhartha. He left behind his palace, not because he hated life, but because he wanted to understand it. He wanted to discover if there was a way to live without fear, without endless hunger, without the chains of worry and despair. And what he discovered was not a theory, not a set of beliefs to memorize, but a path that anyone can walk. A path that begins right here, with the life we already have. This path does not demand that we believe blindly. It invites us to look directly at our own experience, to notice how desire pulls us, how fear shapes us, how clinging to what we cannot hold makes us suffer. And it offers a simple but radical promise. Freedom's possible. Not freedom from work, not freedom from responsibility, but freedom from the prison of the restless mind. Freedom from the endless not enough. Freedom that can be tasted in this very breath dot in this journey. We will explore the 10 great struggles of modern life. Stress, money, relationships, anxiety, and more. Each of them is real. Each of them is heavy. But each of them can become a doorway into wisdom, a doorway into compassion, a doorway into peace. We will not escape life by walking this path. Instead, we will learn to walk through life with open eyes, with an open heart, and with the strength that comes when we know. Longer fight against reality, but flow with it not. So as we begin, I ask you to bring your whole self. Bring your pain, bring your doubts, bring your hope. Bring the questions you have carried for years. Because in these hours together, we will not run away from suffering. We will walk into it with courage and with honesty. And step by step, story by story, teaching by teaching, we will discover what it means to be free. Stress has become the silent epidemic of our age. It hides behind the glow of computer screens, in the traffic that never ends, in the constant vibration of phones that never stop ringing. People today carry stress like a shadow that clings to every step. And while it may seem ordinary, like something we just accept as part of life, stress is slowly breaking us from within. It eats away at health, at joy, at the very sense of being alive. If you pause and listen, you can hear it in your own body right now. The heartbeat that races too quickly, the breath that never goes deep enough, the tension that sits in your shoulders like a weight you cannot put down. For many, stress is not just a passing mood. It is the background music of their entire life. Wake up, check messages, rush to work. Deadlines, arguments, decisions. Even when the day ends, the mind refuses to stop. It replays every mistake, every fear, every what if. The bed becomes a battlefield. The night is restless. And when morning comes, the cycle begins again. This is not living. This is surviving in slow motion. And yet, millions accept it as normal, as if there were no other way to exist. Why do we carry stress so deeply? The answer lies in the nature of desire and fear. The modern world tells us that to be happy, we must achieve more, own more, control more. At the same time, it warns us that everything can be lost. Jobs can vanish, health can collapse, relationships can fail. So we live trapped between craving and fear, always reaching, always guarding, never at rest. It is like trying to cross an ocean by running faster on the shore. The movement feels urgent, but the destination never comes closer. Consider the story of a man named Daniel. He was successful by every modern standard. A good job, a house, a family. Yet each day, he felt like a rope was tightening around his chest. He snapped at his children. He lay awake at night, planning for problems that never happened. One evening, his young daughter asked, "Daddy, why are you always angry?" That question broke him. He realized his life was not his own anymore. It was ruled by stress. And the more he tried to push it away, the stronger it became. This is the truth about stress. It does not come only from what happens around us. It comes from the way we hold on to what happens. The mind clings to every task, every insult, every fear of the future. Like a hand that refuses to release a burning coal, we suffer not because the coal is hot, but because we refuse to let go. We carry stress into our bodies, into our hearts, into every moment. Even moments that could be peaceful if only we allowed them to be. The Buddha once compared this to being struck by an arrow. Life, by its nature, will sometimes wound us. Illness, loss, disappointment, these are the first arrows. They are painful, but unavoidable. Yet we often add a second arrow, one we fire into ourselves. We worry about the pain. We imagine it lasting forever. We build stories of failure and fear. The first arrow is life. The second arrow is stress. And while we cannot always stop the first arrow, we can choose whether to fire the second dot. So how do we choose differently? The answer begins with awareness. Stress feeds on unconsciousness. It grows strongest when we live on autopilot, reacting without noticing, running without asking why. The simple act of stopping even for a single breath can begin to loosen stress's grip. When Daniel finally sat one evening, phone off, lights low, just breathing, he noticed something he had never seen before. His stress was not one giant wall. It was a series of small sensations. A tightness in the chest, a buzzing in the head, thoughts rising and falling. And in seeing them clearly, he realized they were not permanent. They shifted moment by moment. They were not him. They were just experiences moving through him. This is the door that Buddhist wisdom opens. Stress is not an enemy to destroy. It is a messenger to understand. Each wave of tension points to something we are clinging to. Fear of losing what we love, desire for control, resistance to change. When we see this clearly, stress becomes less of a monster and more of a teacher. It shows us where we are still fighting against life, where we are still trapped by the endless cycle of wanting and fearing. Imagine holding a glass of water. At first, it feels light, but if you hold it for 1 hour, your arm aches. If you hold it for 1 day, your arm trembles. The weight has not changed. What changed is how long you held it. Stress works the same way. It is not always the size of the problem, but how long we carry it. Awareness teaches us to set the glass down, to release the burden, even for a moment. And in that release, peace returns. Yet many resist this practice. They say, "I cannot slow down. If I stop, I will fall behind." But what they do not see is that constant stress does not help them run faster. It drains their energy, clouds their mind, weakens their body. A calm mind is not a luxury. It is the foundation of real strength. When we see clearly, we act wisely. When we are calm, we are more effective. To carry stress endlessly is like trying to see through muddy water. Only when the water is still does the reflection appear. This path of awareness is not abstract. It can be lived in simple daily ways. When stress rises, notice the breath. Feel it enter. Feel it leave. This anchors you in the present, reminding you that the future you fear is not here yet, and the past you regret is already gone. When tasks overwhelm you, break them down. Do one thing at a time, fully, instead of scattering your mind across 100 worries. When anger burns, pause before speaking. Ask yourself, am I about to throw a second arrow at myself or someone else? And when you feel powerless, remember, you cannot control everything, but you can choose how you meet each moment. Over time, these small practices create space. Space in the mind, space in the heart. Stress loses its power when it no longer controls your attention. And in that space, something else grows: compassion. You begin to see that others too are carrying invisible burdens. The coworker who snaps, the stranger who drives too fast, the loved one who withdraws, they are not your enemies. They are fellow travelers struggling under their own weight. When you see this, judgment softens, connection deepens, and stress begins to transform, not into something to fear, but into a bridge toward understanding. But this is only the beginning, because stress is not just a personal problem. It is woven into the very fabric of modern life, our economy, our culture, our expectations. To truly understand it, we must look deeper. We must see how society itself trains us to cling, to crave, to fear. And this will take us further into the heart of the Buddhist path, where solutions are not just about surviving stress, but about transcending the cycle that creates it. Stress is not only an individual struggle, it is a reflection of the world we live in. Look around at the rhythm of modern society. The advertisements that tell us we are not enough unless we buy more. The news that feeds us fear each hour. The workplace that demands constant performance. Faster, harder, without pause. From childhood, we are trained to race. School teaches us to compete. Jobs reward us for endless output. Even in leisure, people feel pressure to achieve, to travel, to post, to prove. No wonder stress has become the air we breathe. It is not simply our personal weakness. It is a system that thrives on our restlessness. This system convinces us that stress is a sign of importance. If you are busy, you must be valuable. If you are tired, you must be working hard. If you are anxious, it means you care. But beneath this illusion lies a darker truth. A society built on stress produces exhausted minds, broken relationships, and sick bodies. It fills hospitals with heart disease. It fills homes with silence and distance. It fills hearts with emptiness. The machine runs, but the people who fuel it slowly collapse. And still, we are told this is normal. Buddhist wisdom shines it clear. Light here, it reminds us that stress is not natural. Pressure may come, challenges may arise, but the constant fire of stress is man-made. It comes from craving and clinging, from believing that peace lies just beyond the next achievement. But peace is never in the future. Peace is only here now. When Siddhartha sat beneath the Bodhi tree, he was surrounded by all the temptations of his mind, fear, desire, doubt. Yet he did not fight them with more stress. He sat still. He breathed, He saw them for what they were, passing illusions. And in that calm, truth revealed itself. The middle way was born. Not indulgence, not torture, but balance. We forget balance. We swing from one extreme to another, work endlessly, then collapse in escape television, alcohol, scrolling through endless screens. None of this heals. None of this frees. It only covers the wound for a moment. True healing begins when we choose balance in each step. Not too tight, not too loose. Not running endlessly, not falling into despair, but walking with steady breath. Steady mind, steady heart. This is the antidote to stress. Imagine a guitar string. If pulled too tight, it snaps. If left too loose, it makes no sound. Only with the right balance does it create music. Our lives are the same. Stress pulls us too tight. Laziness leaves us too loose. But awareness, compassion, and presence tune us to harmony. Then life becomes music again. Not noise, not silence, but a melody we can truly live. Yet how do we tune ourselves in a world that constantly demands more? The answer lies in practice. Not practice as in theory, but practice as in living differently. Moment by moment, one simple practice is mindful breathing. Each time stress rises, pause. Feel the air enter your body. Feel it leave. This is not a small act. It is a declaration. I am not a prisoner of stress. I choose to return to this moment. Another practice is mindful walking. Instead of rushing to the next task, take 3 slow steps. Feel the ground beneath your feet. Let the body remind the mind that there is nowhere to go but here. Over time, these practices build resilience. They remind us that stress may knock, but it does not need to stay. Another practice is letting go. Stress thrives on control. We want every outcome to match our plan, but life is not obedient. It bends, it twists, it surprises. When we demand control, we suffer. When we release control, peace flows in. Letting go does not mean giving up. It means acting with clarity, then releasing the results. The farmer plants the seed, waters it, cares for the soil, but he cannot pull the seedling out of the ground before its time. If he tries, he destroys it. Life grows in its own rhythm. So too must we learn to trust. There is also the practice of compassion. Stress shrinks our world to a tiny circle of self, my problems, my deadlines, my fears. Compassion opens that circle. It shifts the focus from me to we. When we see another person smile because of our kindness, stress softens. When we help someone else, we remember that we are not alone. Compassion is not only a gift to others, it is medicine for our own hearts. It breaks the cycle of endless self-concern. Where stress breeds strongest, but perhaps the most radical practice is acceptance. Stress often comes from resisting what is already here. The traffic jam is here, but we fight it in our minds. The illness is here, but we deny it. The argument has happened, but we replay it endlessly. Acceptance does not mean liking these things. It means seeing them as they are, without adding the second arrow. The traffic jam is simply cars on a road. The illness is simply the body's condition. The argument is simply words that were spoken. When we accept, stress loses its fuel. What remains is clarity. And with clarity, we can respond wisely, not react blindly. Think again of Daniel, the man crushed by stress. As he practiced these teachings, his life slowly shifted. He still had work. He still had bills, but his nights grew calmer. His anger softened. He laughed with his children again. Stress did not vanish, but it no longer ruled him. He discovered what the Buddha meant when he spoke of liberation. Liberation is not escaping life. It is living fully, without being trapped by fear and craving. It is tasting freedom in the very midst of challenge. And this is the promise for all of us. We may live in a stressful world, but we are not condemned to be victims of it. We can learn to meet stress with awareness, balance, compassion, and acceptance. Each time we practice, we loosen the chains a little more. Each time we breathe, we reclaim a piece of our lives. And step by step, stress becomes less of a curse and more of a guide. It shows us where we are clinging. It points us toward the path of release. As we leave this first doorway, remember this: stress is not your enemy. It is your teacher. Each time it arises, it asks you, will you cling or will you let go? And each time you choose to let go, even for a moment, you walk closer to freedom. But stress is only the beginning. Beneath it lies another wound, one that drives much of our suffering in silence. It is the wound of money, our endless chase for security, success, and worth. To understand this next struggle, we must look honestly at how money shapes our hearts, our fears, and our hopes. And in that exploration, we will discover how Buddhist wisdom can free us not only from stress, but from the illusions of wealth itself. Money has become the great measure of modern life. It promises security, status, comfort, and freedom. From childhood, we are taught to value it as the key to happiness. A child receives an allowance and learns that coins buy candy. A teenager works a job and learns that dollars buy independence. An adult struggles for a paycheck and learns that money buys survival. And yet, no matter how much we earn, it never feels enough. Money, like a mirage in the desert, always seems to glimmer just beyond reach. We run toward it, but the thirst remains. This endless chase is exhausting. People sacrifice their health for money, only to spend that money trying to restore their health. They sacrifice time with loved ones and pay for vacations to reconnect, never realizing that the time lost can never be bought back. They sacrifice peace of mind, believing wealth will bring peace, only to discover that wealth brings new fears. Fear of losing it, fear of not having enough, fear of being judged by it. In this way, money becomes not just a tool, but a prison. The bars are not physical, but mental, built from desire, comparison, and fear. Think of Sarah, a young professional who worked 12-hour days in the city. She earned more than she ever thought possible. Yet each month, she found herself more anxious, not less. She upgraded her apartment, her clothes, her car. But with each upgrade, her expenses grew. She worried constantly. What if she lost her job? What if she could not keep up? At night, she scrolled through social media, comparing her life with others who seemed to have even more. Instead of joy, she felt emptiness. Her money did not free her. It chained her. This is the hidden nature of money. It is not the paper itself, not the numbers in the bank, but the story we tell about it. We believe money equals safety, but no amount can guarantee safety from sickness, aging, or death. We believe money equals respect, but respect built on wealth crumbles the moment wealth disappears. We believe money equals freedom, but freedom built on desire is no freedom at all. It is simply another name for dependence. The Buddha warned of this when he spoke of craving as the root of suffering. Money, when desired endlessly, becomes just another chain in the endless cycle. To see this clearly, imagine desire as a fire. Money is the fuel. The more fuel we add, the more the fire grows. And yet the fire is never satisfied. It burns hotter, demanding more, always more. The world encourages this fire. Advertisements whisper, "You need this to be happy." Companies design products to make us feel incomplete without them. The cycle continues. Earn, spend, crave, repeat. It is not money itself that harms us. It is the fire of desire that consumes. U.S. Buddhist wisdom offers a different way. Instead of chasing endlessly, it invites us to see money as what it truly is, a tool, nothing more, nothing less. Just as a spoon can feed you or stir poison, money can support life or destroy it. What matters is not the amount, but the relationship. Do you cling to it? Do you fear losing it? Do you believe it defines your worth? If so, you will never find peace, no matter how much you hold. But if you use it with mindfulness, with generosity, with balance, then money becomes a servant, not a master. It supports your path instead of controlling it. One of the most powerful teachings on money comes through the practice of generosity, known as danai. In ancient times, monks lived entirely on the gifts of lay people. The lay people gave food, not because the monks demanded it, but because giving itself was a path to freedom. To give without expectation loosens the grip of greed. It reminds us that joy does not come from what we hold tightly, but from what we release. In giving, we learn that we already have enough. The heart becomes lighter, stress softens, and paradoxically, the less we cling, the more secure we feel. Consider Sarah again. Exhausted by anxiety, she decided to try something different. Instead of buying another luxury, she donated part of her paycheck to a charity helping children. The first time she did it, fear rose. What if she needed that money later? But when she saw the joy her gift created, something shifted. For the first time, money felt like a bridge, not a chain. She discovered that wealth is not measured by how much you keep, but by how much you can give without fear. In that moment, money lost its power over her. She was free. Generosity is not only about big donations. It can be as simple as buying a meal for a friend, sharing time with someone lonely, or offering attention to a child who craves it. True wealth is the capacity to give joy. When we live this way, money becomes lighter. It flows in and out like water, serving life instead of drowning it. The heart that knows generosity is never poor, but generosity alone is not enough. We must also see through the illusion that money defines who we are. In Buddhist teaching, the self is not fixed. It is a flowing process, interwoven with all life. To tie our worth to numbers in a bank account is like tying our identity to the weather. It may rise, it may fall, but it is never truly us. A person with little money can live with dignity, wisdom, and joy. A person with great wealth can live in fear and emptiness. Worth is not found in money. Worth is found in awareness, compassion, and integrity. These cannot be bought or lost. They are the true treasures. Another teaching is simplicity. The modern world celebrates excess. Bigger houses, faster cars, endless gadgets. But each possession adds weight. Each desire adds stress. Simplicity does not mean poverty. It means clarity. It means choosing what truly matters and letting go of what does not. The monk with one bowl may be freer than the millionaire with 10 mansions, because the monk is not burdened by constant craving. To live simply is to breathe deeply, to walk lightly, to sleep peacefully. It is not about how much you own, but how little you need to be whole. There is a story of a Zen master who lived in a small hut. A wealthy man visited him, offering gifts of gold. The master smiled and asked, "Do you see that moon?" The man nodded. "It lights the entire night, yet it costs nothing. Why do you believe happiness must be bought?" The man was silent. In that silence, he understood. Joy is not sold in markets. Joy is already present, waiting to be noticed. Money will always be part of life. We cannot wish it away, but we can change our relationship with it. Instead of fear, choose trust. Instead of greed, choose generosity. Instead of endless craving, choose simplicity. In this way, money becomes not a prison, but a path. It becomes a way to practice awareness, compassion, and freedom in the midst of daily life. And yet, the grip of money is tied closely to another great struggle: relationships. For often it is not money itself that breaks hearts, but the way it twists love, friendship, and family. Arguments over finances, comparisons between partners, the silent pressure of expectations, these wounds run deep. To heal them, we must look not only at money, but at the human bonds it touches. And so our journey continues from the illusion of wealth to the fragile beauty of connection, where Buddhist wisdom shines even brighter. Money's power does not lie in paper bills or numbers glowing on a screen. Its power lies in the mind. It shapes how we think, how we feel, how we compare ourselves to others. And because of this, money often becomes a mirror. It reflects our deepest fears, our hidden desires, our unspoken insecurities. That is why two people with the same income can live in entirely different worlds, one filled with anxiety, the other with peace. It is not the amount that determines our lives. It is the story we attach to it. Modern society tells a loud story. It says that money equals worth. If you earn more, you are better. If you earn less, you are failing. This story creeps into conversations at dinner tables, into the way we look at strangers, even into how we judge ourselves. But Buddhist teaching cuts through this illusion. It reminds us that no self is fixed, no worth is permanent, and no amount of money can change the truth of impermanence. Rich or poor, we are all bound by aging, sickness, and death. And in the face of those truths, the numbers in the bank account lose their shine. Still, the illusion is strong. Consider Mark, a middle-aged man who once had a thriving business. For years, money flowed easily. He bought a large house, expensive cars, and lived as though the abundance would last forever. Then the economy shifted, and his business collapsed. Within months, the wealth was gone. But the hardest blow was not the loss of the house or the cars. It was the loss of identity. Mark no longer knew who he was without wealth. He felt ashamed, as if his value as a human being had disappeared along with his savings. Depression followed. His suffering was not only from financial loss, but from the false belief that money defined him. In time, Mark found his way to a meditation group. At first, he resisted. He wanted answers, quick solutions, a way to rebuild. But sitting in silence, listening to the teachings, he began to see. His life had always been changing, just as seasons change, just as the breath rises and falls. His wealth had been temporary. His loss was temporary. And most importantly, his true worth was never tied to either. Slowly, the shame lifted. He learned to measure wealth not by what he had, but by how much peace he carried in each moment. His story shifted, and with it, his freedom returned. This shift is possible for anyone. To see money clearly is to break the chains of comparison. It is to realize that your value does not rise and fall with your salary. True wealth is the capacity to be content, the courage to give, and the wisdom to see through illusions. The Buddha once said, "Contentment is the greatest wealth." This does not mean settling for less than you need. It means realizing that enough is already here. When the heart is content, even little feels abundant. When the heart is discontent, even much feels empty. How then do we practice this in daily life? One way is gratitude. Each day, pause to notice what money has already provided: food on the table, a roof overhead, clothing to wear. These are not small things. They are treasures. Gratitude softens the hunger for more and opens the eyes to the richness already present. Another practice is mindful spending. Before buying, ask, do I need this? Will it bring lasting peace? Or only a moment of distraction? Over time, This simple question can transform our relationship with money, turning it from a source of craving into a practice of awareness. Another way is mindful earning. Work is often fueled by stress, ambition, or fear. But work can also be an act of service. When we shift from how much will this give me to how much good can this bring, work becomes lighter. Even ordinary tasks gain meaning. A teacher shaping young minds, a builder raising walls, a cook feeding families, all can see their labor not as a grind for money, but as a gift to the world. When we view work as service, money becomes a natural result, not the sole purpose. Still, money touches more than just ourselves. It seeps into our relationships. Couples argue over bills. Families fracture over inheritance. Friendships strain under the weight of jealousy. Money, when misunderstood, becomes a wedge that drives people apart. And so, the practice must extend to how we share money with others. Transparency, honesty, and compassion are essential. When partners speak openly about finances, trust deepens. When families choose fairness over greed, bonds strengthen. When friends celebrate each other's success without envy, joy grows. Money then becomes not a source of conflict, but a tool for connection. And generosity, again, stands at the heart of this. To give freely, not only to strangers, but also within relationships, heals many wounds. Imagine a family where each member gives what they can, without keeping score. Imagine a friendship where one treats today, the other tomorrow, without resentment. Imagine a marriage where money is not yours or mine, but ours, shared in the spirit of partnership. These simple shifts dissolve the sharp edges of money's power. They turn financial matters from battlegrounds into opportunities for love. But even as we work with money wisely, we must never forget impermanence. Wealth can vanish overnight. Jobs can end. Economies can collapse. If our happiness rests solely on money, we will always live in fear. But if our happiness rests on awareness, compassion, and balance, then even loss cannot take it away. This is not a theory. It is a practice lived daily in how we breathe, spend, work, and give. Sarah and Mark's stories remind us, money itself is not the problem. The problem is the illusion that money is the foundation of life. In truth, money is like water. Held too tightly, it slips through our fingers. Allowed to flow, it nourishes life. If we drink when thirsty and share when others thirst, water serves us well. If we hoard it in fear, it stagnates and poisons us. So it is with money. The choice is always ours. As we close this doorway, carry this truth. The greatest wealth is not in what you own, but in the freedom to live without fear of loss. Each time you practice gratitude, generosity, simplicity, and compassion, you are richer than any billionaire chained to craving. Each time you release the story that money defines you, you are wealthier than kings. For the true treasure is peace. And peace is always here, waiting for you to see it. Yet money is not the only force shaping our suffering. Even more intimate, more tender, are the struggles of the heart, our relationships. Love that begins with hope, but turns into conflict. Friendships that grow distant. Families torn apart by silence and misunderstanding. These wounds cut deeper than financial loss. They touch the very core of who we are. And to heal them, we must turn again to Buddhist wisdom, which teaches us how to see others, not as separate, but as reflections of ourselves. From the illusion of wealth, we now move into the fragile beauty of human connection, and the path to transform it. Human beings are not meant to live alone. From the moment we are born, we depend on others. A baby survives only through the care of parents. A child learns through teachers, friends, and family. Adults build homes, communities, and societies through connection. Relationships are the fabric of life. And yet, in our modern world, They are also one of the deepest sources of suffering. Love turns to conflict. Trust turns to suspicion. Intimacy fades into distance. Friends become strangers. Families become divided. We long for connection, yet so often we find ourselves isolated, misunderstood, or hurt. Why do relationships cause such pain? The root lies in our illusions about self and others. We imagine ourselves as separate beings, fixed and permanent. We imagine our partners, friends, and families as extensions of our desires shaped to fit our needs, our expectations, our stories. But when reality collides with these illusions, suffering follows. A partner does not act the way we want. A friend disappoints us. A family member refuses to change. Instead of seeing them as living beings with their own conditions and struggles, we see them as obstacles to our happiness. Conflict arises, walls are built, and love dissolves into blame. Consider Emily and James, a couple married for 10 years. In the beginning, their love felt effortless. They laughed together, supported each other, shared dreams of the future. But over time, daily stress crept in. Bills, work, children, exhaustion. Small disagreements turned into big arguments. Each carried unspoken resentments. Emily felt unseen, as though her needs were ignored. James felt unappreciated, as though nothing he did was enough. They still loved each other, but that love was buried under layers of pain. When they sat together, silence filled the room. Not the silence of peace, but the silence of distance. Their relationship, once alive, now felt like a cage. This story is not unique. It is repeated in countless homes across the world. And the pain is not limited to romantic partnerships. Friendships, too, fracture under the weight of misunderstanding. Families, too, carry generations of unhealed wounds. At the heart of these struggles is attachment, the belief that others must meet our expectations for us to be happy. When they fail to do so, anger arises. When they succeed, fear of losing them arises. This endless push and pull mirrors the cycle of craving that fuels all suffering. Buddhist wisdom offers a radical shift. It teaches that true love is not possession, not control, not demand. True love is built on 4 qualities: loving kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. Loving kindness is the wish for others to be happy. Compassion is the wish to relieve their suffering. Joy is the ability to celebrate their happiness without envy. Equanimity is the balance that allows us to love without clinging or fear. When these 4 qualities grow, relationships transform. They shift from cages of expectation to gardens of freedom. For Emily and James, this meant learning to see each other with new eyes. Instead of asking, "What can you give me?" they began asking, "What pain are you carrying?" Instead of blaming, they practiced listening, deep listening, without interruption, without defense. At first, it was difficult. Old patterns resisted. But slowly, as compassion replaced judgment, walls softened. They realized they were not enemies. They were fellow travelers, each wounded, each longing for peace. Their love, once buried, began to breathe again. This practice of deep listening is powerful. Often, people do not need solutions. They need to be heard. They need someone to sit with their pain without turning away. When we listen in this way, we give the greatest gift, presence. Presence heals what words cannot. Presence says, "You are not alone. I see you. I hear you. I am here with you." In a world filled with noise, this kind of silence is rare. But it is in this silence that love grows. Another practice is forgiveness. In relationships, wounds are inevitable. Words are spoken in anger. Mistakes are made. Promises are broken. If we cling to each wound, the relationship suffocates. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting or excusing harm. It means choosing not to carry the weight of resentment. It means setting down the heavy stone so that both can walk freely again. The Buddha compared resentment to holding hot coal, waiting to throw it at someone else. But in holding it, we burn ourselves first. Forgiveness is the act of letting the coal fall. It is not only for the other person's sake, it is for our own liberation. Consider also the story of two monks walking along a road. They came upon a woman unable to cross a muddy puddle. The elder monk carried her across and set her down. Hours later, the younger monk was still fuming. How could you carry that woman? We are monks. We are not supposed to touch women. The elder monk replied, I set her down hours ago. Why are you still carrying her? In relationships, we often carry old wounds long after they are over. Forgiveness is setting them down. Only then can we walk into the present with open hands and open hearts. Relationships also require mindfulness of speech. Words can heal, or they can wound. In anger, words become weapons sharper than knives. Once spoken, they cannot be taken back. Mindful speech means pausing before speaking, asking, is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Not every thought deserves a voice. Not every emotion deserves expression. When speech is guided by compassion, trust grows. When guided by anger, trust dies. Practicing mindful speech is not about silence. It is about using words to build bridges, not walls. Still, no relationship can thrive on effort alone. It also requires joy. Too often, people focus only on problems, forgetting to nurture moments of lightness. Laughter, play, appreciation, these are not luxuries. They are nourishment. Just as a plant needs sunlight as well as water, relationships need joy as well as understanding. To smile together, to share gratitude, to celebrate small moments, these are acts of love as vital as forgiveness. And listening, yet the deepest teaching is equanimity. To love without clinging, to care without fear, to walk beside another without trying to control their path. This is the highest form of love. It does not bind the other. It sets them free. It does not say, you must make me happy. It says, I love you enough to want your happiness, even if it does not always include me. This is not easy. It requires courage, humility, and wisdom. But when practiced, it turns relationships into sacred spaces of freedom. From romantic partnerships to friendships, from parents to children, from families to communities, these teachings apply to all. The illusion of separateness breeds loneliness and conflict. The truth of interconnection breeds compassion and harmony. When we see that others are not separate from us, but part of the same web of life, we stop demanding perfection. We start offering love. And in offering love, we receive it. But relationships are not only about joy and healing. They are also fertile ground for anxiety, the fear of losing what we love, the fear of rejection, the fear of not being enough. To face this fear, we must go deeper still into the roots of anxiety itself. And that will be our next step in this journey as we move from the struggles of connection to the restless storm of the anxious mind. To truly understand relationships, we must recognize that every bond is a mirror. What we see in others often reflects what we carry within ourselves. The anger we project, the disappointment we feel, the expectations we demand, all of these are shaped by our own wounds and illusions. This is why relationships can be both so beautiful and so painful. They reveal parts of ourselves we might otherwise never see. If we are mindful, they become classrooms for growth. If we are blind, they become prisons of suffering. Take Anna, a woman who always felt abandoned. Her parents divorced when she was young, and she carried the wound of loss into adulthood. In her marriage, she clung tightly to her husband, fearing He would leave. Each time he was late, she panicked. Each time he seemed distant, she accused him of not caring. Over time, the marriage grew strained. Her husband felt suffocated, and she felt unloved. Yet the real cause was not his behavior, but her unhealed wound. She was not seeing him clearly. She was seeing the shadow of her past. Only when she recognized this and began to heal within could the relationship breathe again. This is a common story. We bring old pain into present love. We expect others to heal wounds they did not create. We expect them to give us security that only self-awareness can provide. And when they fail, we blame them. But Buddhist wisdom shows another way. It teaches that healing must begin within. If we do not know how to be at peace with ourselves, we cannot create peace with another. If we cannot love ourselves with kindness, we cannot love another with freedom. Relationships are not about completing each other. They are about walking side by side, each whole, each free, each committed to growth. This inner work requires mindfulness. To notice when fear rises, when jealousy burns, when anger sharpens the tongue. To pause before reacting. To ask, is this about the present or about my past? Most conflicts dissolve when we stop projecting old wounds. Most love deepens when we meet the other with fresh eyes. This is not easy, but it is possible. And each step taken in awareness brings more space, more compassion, more freedom. Mindfulness also reveals the impermanence of relationships. Nothing lasts forever. Friendships change, partners grow, families shift. To cling to permanence is to suffer. To accept change is to love deeply while it lasts. This acceptance does not weaken love. It strengthens it. When we know that every moment is precious, we do not waste it on petty arguments or silent resentment. We choose presence. We choose kindness. We choose to say, I love you today, because tomorrow is never promised. There is a story of a Zen master whose student asked, "What is the most important teaching about love?" The master replied, "Love as if the person you love is already gone." At first, this sounded harsh, but the student realized its meaning. When we embrace impermanence, we stop taking love for granted. We cherish it fully, here and now. We do not cling, we do not delay, we do not withhold. We give our love freely because we understand its fragility. This wisdom also applies to conflict. Too often, we hold grudges, forgetting how short life is. Families go years without speaking. Friends separate over small misunderstandings. Partners sleep side by side, but their hearts are miles apart, all because of pride, fear, or stubbornness. But when we remember impermanence, these grudges lose power. We realize that anger is not worth the cost of lost years. Reconciliation becomes urgent. Compassion becomes natural. Forgiveness becomes possible. For when we see that death can come at any moment, we choose to love while we cannot still. Impermanence does not mean despair. It means depth. Just as flowers bloom more beautifully because they will fade, relationships become more meaningful because they are fragile. Impermanence teaches us to hold love lightly, to enjoy it deeply, and to release it gracefully when the time comes. This is the balance of true love: to give fully without clinging, to care deeply without fear, to walk together without chains. That another essential aspect of relationships is compassion in action. It is easy to love in words, harder to love in deeds. True compassion means showing up when it is inconvenient, listening when we would rather speak, forgiving when the wound still stings. Compassion is not a feeling, it is a practice. It is cooking a meal for someone tired, holding the hand of someone afraid, speaking gently when the other is harsh. Each act may seem small, but together they weave the fabric of trust and intimacy. Compassion is the daily bread of love. And yet, We must also remember equanimity. Compassion without balance can lead to burnout. We cannot save everyone. We cannot carry another's burden entirely. Each person must walk their own path. Equanimity means caring deeply, but not drowning in the other's suffering. It means offering love without losing ourselves. It means respecting the freedom of the other, even when their choices cause pain. This balance protects relationships from collapsing under the weight of unhealthy attachment. Story of the two monks and the woman illustrates this well, but another story adds depth. A father watched his adult son make choices that led to suffering. The father wanted to rescue him, to force him onto a better path, but a wise teacher reminded him, "You can offer the boat, but you cannot force him to row." The father realized that love means offering, not controlling. He gave his son support, but allowed him the freedom to learn through his own mistakes. This equanimity preserved their relationship and gave his son space to grow. Friendships, too, require this wisdom. True friends are not those who always agree, but those who remain present even when paths diverge. They celebrate our joys without envy. They sit with our pain without judgment. They let us be ourselves without demand. Such friendships are rare, but they are possible when both practice mindfulness, compassion, and equanimity. In such bonds, stress and comparison dissolve. What remains is trust, laughter, and mutual growth. At the deepest level, relationships remind us of our interconnectedness. There is no separate self. Just as a wave is not separate from the ocean, we are not separate from each other. When we hurt another, we hurt ourselves. When we love another, we heal ourselves. This is not poetic metaphor. It is lived truth. Science confirms it. Our nervous systems respond to the emotions of those around us. A smile calms. Anger agitates. Compassion soothes. Interconnection is not an idea. It is the fabric of life. When we truly see this, love becomes natural, and cruelty becomes unthinkable. As we close this doorway, let us remember, relationships are not problems to solve, but opportunities to awaken. They show us where we cling, where we project, where we resist. They invite us to practice patience, forgiveness, and love. They challenge us to grow beyond the small self into the larger truth of interconnection. And when we walk this path, relationships cease to be prisons of expectation. They become sacred grounds of transformation. But just as relationships reveal love, they also reveal fear. Beneath many conflicts lies anxiety, the restless storm of the mind that whispers, "You are not enough. You will lose what you love. You cannot trust the future." To heal fully, we must turn toward this anxiety, not as an enemy, but as another teacher. From the beauty and struggle of relationships, our journey now moves into the heart of anxiety itself, and the path to freedom from its grip. Anxiety is the silent companion of modern life. It creeps into our mornings before the day has begun. It lingers at night, whispering doubts when the world is quiet. It is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is a low hum beneath every thought, a subtle unease that colors everything we do. At other times, it is a storm, shaking the body with racing heartbeat, shallow breath, and restless energy. Anxiety can make a safe home feel unsafe, a promising future feel uncertain, and even moments of joy feel fragile. It is the shadow of fear stretched across the landscape of daily life. Why is anxiety so widespread today? The answer lies in the conditions of the modern world. We live in constant motion. Technology connects us instantly to every crisis, every tragedy, every demand. The phone buzzes, the screen glows, and with each notification, our nervous system jolts. Work expects us to be available at all hours. Social media magnifies comparison, making us feel behind even when we are doing well. The mind, bombarded by endless input, never rests. Like a wheel spinning too fast, it burns itself out. Yet anxiety is not only external, it is also internal. It is the voice of what if? What if I fail? What if they leave me? What if I get sick? What if the future collapses? The mind invents endless scenarios, most of which never come true. And yet, the body reacts as if they are real. Muscles tighten, stomach knots, sleep breaks. This is the strange nature of anxiety. It is suffering created not by reality, but by imagination. It is the second arrow we fire into ourselves, again and again. Consider Lara, a young woman who had everything society told her she should want. A stable job, a loving partner, supportive friends. Yet she woke each morning with dread. She feared losing it all. She feared disappointing others. She feared that one mistake would unravel her life. Each night, she replayed conversations, worrying. She had said the wrong thing. Her heart raced without cause. Doctors found nothing wrong with her body, yet she felt broken inside. This is the face of anxiety, invisible, persistent, and deeply painful. The Buddha understood this suffering. He saw that much of human pain comes not from what is happening, but from what the mind imagines. Fear of the future, regret of the past, clinging to what we cannot control. He taught that the way out begins with presence. Anxiety lives in the what if, presence lives in the what is. The breath entering and leaving the body. The sound of wind through trees. The sensation of feet on the ground. When we return to the present, anxiety loosens. It cannot survive long when we are fully here, but presence alone is not enough. We must also change our relationship to anxiety. Most people resist it. They fight it, fearing it will overwhelm them. But resistance fuels it. Like trying to push away a wave, the harder we resist, the more it crashes over us. Buddhist practice invites us to turn toward anxiety with curiosity, to feel the racing heart, the shallow breath, the restless thoughts, and say, this is anxiety. This is what it feels like. Not to judge, not to fight, but to observe. When we do this, something shifts. Anxiety is no longer a monster. It is simply a set of sensations, rising and falling. It loses its power. One powerful practice is mindful breathing during anxiety. When panic rises, the breath often becomes shallow, feeding the cycle. By slowing the breath deep in, slow out, we send a message to the body. It is safe. This simple act can calm the storm. Another practice is labeling. When thoughts spin, instead of getting lost, gently name them. Fear, worry, doubt. This naming creates space. It reminds us that we are not the thought. We are the awareness noticing the thought. The thought may stay, but we are no longer trapped inside it. Lara discovered this when she began practicing mindfulness meditation. At first, sitting with her anxious mind felt unbearable. Thoughts screamed louder, her body shook. But guided by her teacher, she learned to sit through it. She noticed the sensations without judgment. Over weeks, she realized something profound. Anxiety always rose, peaked, and faded. It never destroyed her. It never lasted forever. Each time it returned, she met it with more patience. Slowly, anxiety stopped being her master. It became her teacher, showing her where she was clinging, where she was afraid, where she needed compassion for herself. Compassion is vital. Anxiety often carries shame. People believe, something is wrong with me. I am weak. But anxiety is not weakness. It is the body's survival system working too hard. It is a natural response to fear, amplified by modern life. Meeting it with harshness only deepens the wound. Meeting it with compassion softens it. To place a hand on the heart and say, it's okay, you are safe, you are not alone. This small act can shift the entire experience. Anxiety wants to be resisted, but what heals it is kindness. The teachings also remind us of impermanence. Anxiety feels eternal when we are in its grip, but nothing lasts forever. Each wave rises and falls. Each thought appears and disappears. Even the strongest panic attack passes. To remember impermanence is to remember hope. No storm lasts forever. Even this will change. But beyond personal practice, we must also look at the deeper roots. Anxiety often thrives on our need for control. We want certainty. We want guarantees. But life offers none. The Buddha taught that clinging to control is a cause of suffering. Freedom comes not from controlling everything, but from trusting the flow of life. This does not mean passivity. It means doing our best, then releasing the rest. Like a farmer planting seeds, we work with care, but we cannot control the rain. Anxiety shrinks when we stop demanding certainty and start practicing trust. Still, there is another dimension to anxiety, its connection to relationships, work, and society. Many fears are not personal, they are shared. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of instability. These are collective anxieties shaped by culture. Healing them requires not only personal practice, but also compassion for others. When we realize that almost everyone carries hidden anxiety, we stop feeling isolated. We stop comparing ourselves. We start supporting each other. Anxiety then becomes not a private shame, but a shared human condition that invites us into deeper compassion. And yet, to fully free ourselves, we must go deeper still. Beneath anxiety lies the illusion of self, the belief in a separate, permanent I that must be protected. This I fears loss, fears change, fears death. But when we see that the self is not fixed, that we are part of a vast interconnected flow, the grip of fear loosens. The anxious I dissolves into the larger truth of interbeing. Then anxiety is no longer a personal prison. It becomes a doorway to awakening. As we close this first half of our journey into anxiety, remember this: you are not your anxiety. You are the awareness that sees it. Each time you turn toward it with presence and compassion, you weaken its chains. Each time you breathe through it, you remember your freedom. Anxiety may visit, but it does not own you. It is a teacher knocking at your door, inviting you to look deeper. And in the second half, we will go further into that invitation, exploring how to live with anxiety, not as an enemy, but as a guide toward wisdom, courage, and peace. That to live with anxiety does not mean to be defeated by it. It means learning to walk with it, to understand its language, to see the truths it points toward. Anxiety, in its rawest form, is a signal. It tells us that we are clinging too tightly, fearing too deeply, or imagining too far into the future. If we listen carefully, anxiety becomes not a curse, but a guide. It points us back to balance, to presence, to humility in the face of life's uncertainty. One of the most effective ways to live with anxiety is through mindfulness in daily activity. Meditation is not limited to the cushion. It can be washing dishes, walking down a street, drinking tea. Anxiety thrives in the abstract worries about tomorrow, regrets about yesterday. But when we immerse ourselves in the present task, even something ordinary, the anxious mind has less ground to stand on. Imagine washing a plate. The warm water on your skin, the smooth surface of the dish, the simple act of cleaning, this is enough. In such moments, the mind settles. The anxious storm loses power. Another practice is body awareness. Anxiety often manifests physically: tight shoulders, clenched jaw, shallow breath. By scanning the body and noticing these sensations, we can release tension before it grows. Some traditions teach mindful walking or yoga for this reason, not as exercise alone, but as medicine for the anxious body. Each step, each stretch is a reminder. You are here. You are safe. You are more than your thoughts. But we must also address the roots of anxiety in culture. Our society glorifies productivity. From childhood, we are praised for achievements, not presence. We are taught that our worth depends on performance. This conditioning feeds anxiety. We fear failure not only for its consequences, but because we believe it defines us. Buddhist wisdom challenges this illusion. It teaches that worth is not earned. It is inherent. You are already whole, already complete, even when you stumble, even when you fall. To internalize this truth is to loosen anxiety's grip. It is to realize that mistakes do not destroy your humanity. They reveal it. Laura, the young woman haunted by fear, found freedom in this teaching. She had always believed she needed to be perfect to be loved. Each flaw felt like proof of unworthiness. But through practice, she learned to see herself with compassion. She began repeating a simple phrase, "I am enough as I am." At first, it felt false. But slowly, with patience, the words sank into her heart. She no longer demanded perfection from herself. She accepted her humanness. And with that acceptance, anxiety softened. It did not disappear, but it no longer controlled her. Another dimension of anxiety is its link to mortality. At its core, much of our fear is fear of death, of losing control, of losing loved ones, of losing life itself. We disguise this fear as worry about jobs, relationships, health. But beneath it lies the ultimate anxiety, impermanence. The Buddha taught that to face impermanence directly is the path to freedom. Death is not a punishment. It is the natural rhythm of life. When we resist it, we live in fear. When we accept it, we live in peace. This is why meditation on death is not morbid, but liberating. To remember that life is fragile is to cherish it more deeply, to waste less time on trivial fears, to love more fully while we can. Anxiety also reveals the illusion of control. We plan, we predict, we try to hold the future in our hands. But the future is not ours. It unfolds in ways we cannot foresee. Anxiety is the friction between our desire for certainty and life's refusal to give it. The cure is trust, not blind trust, but wise trust. Trust that life is bigger than our fears. Trust that we can meet whatever arises, one breath at a time. Trust that even in uncertainty, we are not alone. This trust does not eliminate anxiety, but it transforms it. The restless energy becomes humility. The fear becomes openness. The doubt becomes curiosity. Still, we must be careful not to romanticize anxiety. For some, it is overwhelming, rooted in trauma or imbalance of the body. In such cases, professional help is essential. Buddhist practice is not a replacement for therapy or medicine. It is a companion. It provides tools of awareness, compassion, and perspective, but healing often requires multiple paths. There is no shame in seeking help. In fact, seeking help is itself an act of wisdom and courage. One of the greatest lessons anxiety can teach is compassion for others. When we know the weight of fear in our own chest, we understand the struggles of others more deeply. The friend who cancels plans, the colleague who seems restless, the stranger who lashes out, any of them may be carrying unseen anxiety. When we remember this, judgment fades. Patience grows. We become softer, kinder, more willing to meet others with gentleness. In this way, our own suffering becomes a bridge to compassion, connecting us to the universal human experience. There is a story of a teacher who asked his anxious student to hold a cup of water. "How heavy is it?" he asked. The student said, "Not very." The teacher replied, "Hold it for 1 hour." The student's arm began to ache. "Hold it for 1 day." The arm trembled. "The weight has not changed," the teacher said. But the longer you hold it, the heavier it feels. Anxiety is the same. Set it down often. Do not carry it longer than you need. This story captures the essence of practice. We cannot always prevent anxiety from arising, but we can. Choose not to hold it forever. We can set it down again and again. Ultimately, anxiety invites us to awaken. It pushes us to ask deeper questions. Who am I beyond my fears? What is life beyond my need for control? What remains when the restless thoughts fall silent? These questions do not have quick answers. They are lived step by step, breath by breath. And in living them, we discover a truth. Beneath the storm of anxiety, there is a stillness that has never been shaken. Beneath the restless waves, there is an ocean of peace. It is always here, waiting for us to return not as we leave this doorway. Carry this understanding. Anxiety is not your enemy. It is your teacher. Each time it arises, it points you toward presence, compassion, trust, and acceptance. Each time you meet it with awareness, it loses power. And each time you see through its illusions, you grow freer. Anxiety may visit again, but you will no longer mistake it for the truth of who you are. You are more than your fear. You are the awareness that holds it all. From the restless storms of anxiety, our journey now turns to the deeper truths of existence. Itself, the endless cycle of craving and suffering, the wheel that keeps turning as long as we cling. To understand this cycle is to understand the root of human struggle and to glimpse the possibility of liberation. Desire is woven into every corner of human life. From the moment we wake, it begins. Desire for comfort, desire for success, desire for recognition, desire for love. Some desires are simple, like wanting breakfast when we are hungry. Others are vast, like wanting to be remembered, to leave a mark, to escape death itself. Desire drives invention, ambition, and creativity. Yet at the same time, it drives restlessness, envy, and suffering. It is the fire that keeps us moving, but also the fire that burns us when we cannot control its heat. The Buddha saw this truth clearly. After his awakening, he described the root of suffering in simple terms: craving, the endless reaching for what we do not have, and the endless pushing away of what we dislike. This cycle grasping, clinging, resisting creates the wheel of suffering, what he called the endless cycle of rebirth. We do not need to believe in literal reincarnation to understand it. Each day, we are reborn in our desires. Each day, we repeat the same patterns. If I just get this, then I will be happy. But the moment we grasp it, desire shifts. A new longing appears. The cycle continues on and on, like a wheel that never stops turning. Imagine a child licking honey from the edge of a knife. The sweetness is real, but so are the cuts. Desire is the same. It gives us brief pleasure, but at a cost. The new car excites us, but soon becomes ordinary. The promotion lifts us, but quickly fades into stress. The relationship thrills us, but later tests us. Each time, we believe this next thing will finally bring lasting happiness. And each time, we are left hungry again. Desire promises satisfaction, but delivers only more craving. Consider David, a man who worked tirelessly to build his business. He dreamed of financial freedom, believing that once he reached a certain number in his bank account, he would finally relax. Years passed. He achieved his goal, but instead of resting, his mind demanded more. What if the market changed? What if competitors grew stronger? What if he lost everything? His desire for wealth had turned into fear of loss. The peace he longed for remained out of reach. His cycle of craving had only tightened. This is the tragedy of desire. It cannot be satisfied. Like pouring water into a bottomless jar, no amount is enough. And yet, society encourages us to keep pouring. Advertisements whisper, Buy this, and you will feel complete. Social media shouts, look at what others have don't. You want it too? Desire multiplies endlessly, not because we are weak, but because we are human. The question is not whether desire exists. It is whether we let it rule us. Buddhist wisdom does not demand that we kill desire. It invites us to understand it. There are natural desires that sustain life, food, shelter, safety. These are not the problem. The problem is the endless craving for more, the grasping beyond what is needed. The Buddha called this tan, thirst, a thirst that can never be quenched. The more we drink, the thirstier we become. Liberation begins when we see this thirst clearly, when we stop expecting it to disappear through satisfaction and instead begin to loosen its grip. How do we loosen it? The first step is awareness. To notice desire as it arises without judgment. To see the thought, I want this, and recognize it as a thought, not a command. This simple shift creates space. Suddenly, we are not prisoners of desire. We are observers. The second step is investigation. Ask, will this desire bring lasting peace or only momentary pleasure? Often, the answer is clear. We realize the craving is not worth the cost. The third step is release. Letting go does not mean rejecting pleasure. It means not clinging to it, enjoying it while it lasts, but not demanding it stay forever. There is a story of a monk who loved a symbol, porcelain teacup. He admired its beauty, its shape, its smooth texture. But he also told his students, for me, this teacup is already broken. When I drink from it, I enjoy it fully. When it slips and shatters, I am not surprised. This is the essence of freedom from desire, to enjoy what is here without clinging to its permanence, to see everything, possessions, relationships, even life itself, as fragile, already changing. Then desire loses its sting. Pleasure is appreciated, but loss does not destroy us. This perspective also transforms relationships. Often, desire distorts love. We desire not only companionship, but control. We want our partners to behave a certain way, to fulfill our needs, to stay forever. When they change, as all humans do, we suffer. But if we shift from desire to compassion, love becomes freer. We can enjoy connection without clinging to ownership. We can celebrate the other's happiness, even when it does not serve our own. This is not cold detachment. It is warm freedom. It is love without chains. Desire also shows up in subtle ways. The desire for recognition, for validation, for praise. How often do we check our phones, waiting for approval from others? How often do we measure our worth by the opinions of strangers? This desire is as strong as hunger, yet just as unsatisfying. One compliment is never enough. One achievement soon fades. The wheel spins again. To see this clearly is to reclaim our worth from the grip of external desire. Worth is not given by others. It is realized within, in the stillness of awareness. Yet even as we loosen desire, we must not swing to the other extreme of denial. The Buddha himself tried extreme asceticism, starving his body, rejecting all pleasure. He nearly died. Only when he chose the middle way did he awaken. The middle way is balance, not indulgence, not rejection, but wise enjoyment. To eat when hungry, but not to live for endless feasts. To rest when tired, but not to drown in laziness. To love deeply, but not to demand permanence. In balance, desire becomes a servant, not a master. David, the businessman, discovered this. After years of chasing wealth, he shifted his focus. He still worked, but not for endless accumulation. He worked to provide stability, to create opportunities, to give back. He practiced generosity, sharing his resources with those in need. Slowly, the grip of desire loosened. He still enjoyed comfort, but it no longer defined him. He still dreamed, but his dreams were no longer cages. He found peace not in the absence of desire, but in freedom from its chains. This is the promise of Buddhist practice: to live in the world, to enjoy its beauty, but not to be enslaved by craving. To eat the strawberry while hanging from the vine, as in the ancient story, not with despair, but with full appreciation of the sweetness in that moment. Desire may rise again tomorrow, but today, freedom is possible. And each time we practice, each time we loosen the grip, the wheel slows, suffering softens, peace grows. Yet the cycle of desire is not only personal. It also shapes entire societies. Nations compete for wealth and power. Corporations fuel endless consumption. Cultures celebrate more, bigger, faster. This collective desire drives inequality, conflict, and environmental destruction. To break free, we must not only practice individually, but also collectively. We must ask, what kind of society do we want to create? One ruled by craving, or one guided by compassion? This question is not abstract. It begins with each of us, in how we live, how we consume, how we love. And so as we close the first half of this doorway, remember, desire is not evil. It is natural. But when we mistake it for the path to lasting peace, we suffer. Liberation is not about erasing desire, but about seeing it clearly, loosening its grip, and walking the middle way. Each time we practice, we step out of the cycle of craving and into the possibility of freedom. But the wheel of suffering is not only about desire. It also includes the illusions we carry about self, existence, and separation. To see through these illusions is to see the deeper roots of our restlessness. And this will be our next step in exploring the endless cycle of suffering as we journey further into the heart of Buddhist wisdom. The wheel of suffering does not turn only because of desire. It turns because of the illusions that grow from desire, the illusion of permanence, the illusion of control, and the illusion of a fixed self. These illusions are so deeply ingrained that we rarely question them. Yet they are the soil in which craving takes root. Without them, desire would not have the same power. To understand suffering fully, we must see through these illusions. The first illusion is permanence. We know intellectually that everything changes. Seasons shift, bodies age, relationships evolve. Yet in daily life, we cling as if things will last forever. We buy a new phone and expect it to keep working. We fall in love and expect the feelings to stay unchanged. We build a business and expect it to thrive endlessly. When change inevitably comes, when the phone breaks, the feelings shift, the business falters, we suffer. Our pain is not from change itself, but from our resistance to it. We want permanence in a world that offers none. Buddhist teaching calls this impermanence anicca. It is not a curse, but a truth. Everything is in motion. Every breath rises and falls. Every cell is born and dies. Every star burns and fades. To resist this is to fight reality itself. To accept it is to live in harmony with life. Imagine holding a flower. Its beauty lies not in lasting forever, but in its fleeting bloom. If it never faded, we might stop noticing it. Its impermanence makes it precious. So too with all of life. When we embrace impermanence, desire loosens. We stop demanding forever. We start appreciating now. The second illusion is control. We believe we can control outcomes, people, even life itself. We plan, predict, and prepare, convinced we can secure the future. But life constantly reminds us that control is limited. Illness strikes without warning. Accidents happen. People change. The economy shifts. We can influence, but we cannot control. Yet our desire for control is relentless. It fuels anxiety, anger, and endless striving. When things go as planned, we feel secure. When they do not, we feel broken. The Buddha taught that clinging to control is like trying to command the tide. The waves will rise and fall regardless. Wisdom is learning to ride them, not to stop them. The third illusion is the fixed self. We believe in a solid I, a permanent identity that defines who we are. We say, I am this, I am that. But when we look closely, this I dissolves. The body changes each moment, cells dying and regenerating. The mind changes each moment, thoughts rising and fading. Even personality shifts with time and experience. The Buddha called this anatta, no fixed self. We are not a solid entity, but a flow of conditions, interconnected with all life. When we cling to the illusion of self, desire multiplies. We want to protect me, to glorify me, to prove me. But when we see through the illusion, desire loses ground. We realize there is no permanent I to defend. There is only awareness, flowing moment by moment. These three illusions, permanence, control, and self, keep the wheel of suffering turning, and desire is their fuel. To break free, we must practice awareness, compassion, and wisdom. This is the path the Buddha called the Noble Eightfold Path. Right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Each step weakens the grip of desire. Each step slows the wheel. But breaking free does not mean withdrawing from life. It means engaging with life more fully, without the chains of craving. Consider Maria, a teacher who once lived consumed by desire for recognition. She wanted her students to praise her colleagues to admire her family to see her as successful. When she did not receive these validations, she felt invisible. Her life felt empty. Through practice, she began to see the illusion. Recognition is impermanent. Control over others' opinions is impossible. The self she was trying to protect was only a story in her mind. Slowly, she let go. She still taught with passion, but not for applause. She found joy in the act itself, helping students learn, planting seeds of wisdom. Recognition came sometimes, but it no longer defined her. She was free. This shift is available to us all. It does not require leaving society, living in a cave, or rejecting all pleasure. It requires seeing clearly, seeing that desire cannot deliver lasting happiness, seeing that illusions only create chains, seeing that freedom lies not in having more, but in clinging less. Each moment of awareness is a step out of the cycle. Each act of compassion is a turn of the wheel toward liberation. Still, the path is not linear. Desire does not disappear overnight. Old habits return. Craving whispers, illusions resurface. This is normal. The Buddha himself faced Mara, the embodiment of desire and fear, even after awakening. Freedom is not the absence of temptation. It is the wisdom to recognize it and the strength to let it pass. Each time we notice craving without obeying it, we grow stronger. Each time we embrace impermanence, we grow lighter. Each time we soften the illusion of self, we grow freer. There is a story of a man who carried a heavy bag of stones. He believed they were precious gems. Each day, the bag weighed him down. One day, he opened it and saw they were only ordinary rocks. With a laugh, he set the bag down and walked freely. Our desires are like those stones. We believe they are treasures, but when we look closely, they are heavy burdens. The moment we see clearly, we can set them down. And in that act, the weight of suffering lifts not as we close this doorway. Let us carry this truth. Desire is not the enemy, but neither is it the answer. It is simply a fire. If we feed it blindly, it consumes us. If we understand it, it warms us without burning. The wheel of suffering turns because of craving and illusion. But each step of awareness slows. Each act of compassion loosens it. Each moment of letting go brings us closer to freedom. From the cycle of craving, our journey now turns to another universal struggle, the fear of loss and the weight of grief. For even when we loosen desire, life confronts us with the reality of endings. Loved ones die, relationships end, dreams fade. Grief touches every heart. To meet it with wisdom and compassion is our next step on this path. Loss is one of the deepest truths of human life. Everything we hold dear will one day slip from our hands. Loved ones will pass away. Relationships will end. Dreams we once nurtured will fade. Our own bodies, once strong and full of energy, will weaken and decline. No one escapes this truth. And yet, even though we know it, grief still strikes us like a storm. It tears open the heart, leaving emptiness, confusion, and pain. It is in loss that we face the raw edge of impermanence most directly. For many, grief feels unbearable because it comes not only from the loss itself, but from the love behind it. We grieve because we have loved deeply. We grieve because we are attached to what gave us meaning, comfort, and joy. And when that attachment is severed, the world feels incomplete. The chair at the dinner table is empty. The phone no longer rings. The future we imagined no longer exists. This absence is heavy, and it shapes our days in silence. Consider Michael, a man who lost his wife after 30 years of marriage. For months after her passing, he found himself reaching for her hand in the night, forgetting she was no longer there. Every corner of the house reminded him of her laugh in the kitchen, her perfume in the closet, her favorite chair by the window. Friends offered condolences, but nothing eased the ache. He wondered if the pain would ever end, or if he was destined to live the rest of his life with a broken heart. The Buddha never denied the pain of grief. He did not teach that we should suppress it or pretend it does not exist. He taught that grief, like all suffering, is part of the human condition. To love is to risk loss. To care is to open ourselves to pain. But within that pain lies the possibility of wisdom. For grief shows us, more than anything, the truth of impermanence. It teaches us that nothing can be clung to forever, no matter how precious. And while this truth may feel harsh, it also carries a seed of liberation. The practice is not to deny grief, but to walk through it with awareness. To let ourselves feel the waves of sadness, anger, and longing without drowning in them. Just as a storm passes, grief too rises and falls. Some days it may feel overwhelming. Other days it may soften. Over time, the intensity changes, though the love behind it remains. By observing grief with mindfulness, we learn to ride its waves, rather than be crushed beneath them. One practice that helps in grief is breathing with the pain. When the ache rises, instead of pushing it away, breathe into it. Feel the breath entering the chest where the heaviness sits. Feel it leaving, carrying a little of the weight each time. This simple act reminds us that grief, like breath, moves. It is not static. It is not forever. Another practice is naming. When sorrow comes, gently say to yourself, "This is grief." This is what love feels like when it loses its object. Naming the feeling creates space between us and the emotion. We are not the grief. We are the awareness experiencing grief. Compassion is also vital. In grief, many people judge themselves. They believe they should move on faster, or they feel guilty from moments of laughter, as if joy betrays the one they lost. But Buddhist teaching encourages kindness toward ourselves. There is no timeline for grief. Each heart heals at its own pace. To be gentle with ourselves is to honor the love we carry. Just as we would comfort a friend, we must comfort ourselves, saying, "It's okay to feel this. It's okay to take time it's okay to heal slowly. Another aspect of grief is its universality. When we are grieving, it feels personal, as though no one else can understand. But grief is something every human being experiences. To recognize this is to realize we are not alone. The Buddha encouraged reflection on the shared nature of suffering. When Michael, in his pain, joined a grief support group, he discovered this truth. Hearing others share their stories, he saw his own reflected back. Their tears were his tears. Their longings were his longings. In that shared space, his burden grew lighter. Grief divided is still grief, but grief shared is softened by compassion. Grief also teaches us to cherish the present. When we truly see that everything is temporary, we stop taking life for granted. We stop assuming that the people we love will always be there tomorrow. We start saying, "I love you today." We start appreciating small moments, the laugh of a child, the warmth of the sun, the comfort of a hug. Loss awakens us to the preciousness of life. It reminds us that nothing is guaranteed, so everything must be lived fully, here and now. There is a story of a woman named Kissa Gotami, whose child died suddenly. In her grief, she went to the Buddha, begging him to bring the child back to life. The Buddha told her to bring a mustard seed from a household that had never known death. She went from house to house, but in every home she heard the same story. A parent lost, a sibling lost, a child lost. Death was everywhere. Returning to the Buddha, she realized the truth. Her suffering was not hers alone. It was the nature of life itself. From this realization, her grief began to transform into wisdom. Michael, too, slowly learned this truth. He realized that his wife's death was not a punishment, nor was it unique. It was the law of impermanence. He could not stop the pain, but he could learn to carry it differently. He began to honor her memory by living fully, by laughing with their children, by planting flowers in the garden she loved. In doing so, he discovered that love does not end with death. It changes form. It lives on in memories, in actions, in the way we continue to love others. Loss, then, is not only an end. It is also a teacher. It strips away illusions, reminding us of what truly matters. It deepens compassion, connecting us to all who grieve. It awakens presence, urging us to live now. And though it hurts, the hurt itself can become a doorway to wisdom. The Buddha called this turning poison into medicine. Even grief, when met with awareness, can become part of the path to freedom. Yet grief has many layers. Beyond personal loss, there is collective grief, the grief of communities, of nations, of humanity itself. Natural disasters, wars, injustices, these create wounds that go beyond individuals. To face this grief requires even greater compassion and wisdom. In the next part of this doorway, we will explore how Buddhist practice helps us face not only our private losses, but also the shared grief of the world. Grief does not belong only to individuals. It belongs to communities, to cultures, to the whole of humanity. Just as personal loss shakes our private world, collective loss shakes the larger body of society. When a natural disaster destroys homes, when war takes lives, when injustice continues generation after generation, entire groups of people carry grief together. This grief is heavy, not only because of what has been lost, but because it is shared, woven into the identity of communities. To face collective grief is to face the suffering of many hearts at once. The Buddha understood this collective nature of suffering. He taught that all beings are connected, that no one suffers alone. When one person hurts, their pain ripples outward, touching families, friends, even strangers. In the same way, healing in one heart also ripples outward. This is why compassion is so powerful. It is not only for ourselves, it is for the whole. When we cultivate compassion in the face of grief, we become part of the healing of the world. Consider the story of Aiko, a woman from Japan who lived through a devastating earthquake. Her home was destroyed, and many in her community lost their lives. For months, she felt hopeless. Each day was a reminder of absence, the absence of neighbors, of landmarks, of the life she once knew. But instead of closing off, she began volunteering at relief centers. She cooked meals, comforted children, listened to the stories of survivors. Slowly, her grief transformed. The pain did not vanish, but it became fuel for service. Through compassion, she discovered strength she did not know she had. And in giving to others, she found healing for herself. This is the alchemy of grief. When turned outward, it becomes compassion. When we suffer, we understand the suffering of others more deeply. When we lose, we value what remains. When we mourn, we are reminded of the preciousness of life. If we let it, grief opens the heart rather than closing it. It can soften us instead of hardening us. This is not automatic. It requires awareness and intention. Without them, grief can turn into bitterness or despair. With them, grief becomes a doorway into wisdom and love. Another important aspect of grief is ritual. Human beings across all cultures have created rituals to honor lost funerals, memorials, ceremonies, anniversaries. These are not empty traditions. They are containers for grief, giving it shape and direction. Rituals remind us that we are not alone, that our mourning is shared, that our loved ones are remembered. In Buddhist practice, rituals such as chanting, lighting incense, or offering flowers serve this purpose. They create space for the living to honor the dead, and for the heart to release its weight little by little. Michael, who lost his wife, found solace in such rituals. Each year on her birthday, he lit a candle and sat quietly, remembering her presence. At first, the ritual brought tears. Later, it brought smiles. Eventually, it brought peace. The candle became a symbol not only of her life, but of the truth. That love continues in new forms. Rituals like this help grief move so it does not stagnate. They transform absence into remembrance, pain into reverence. Yet even with rituals and compassion, grief remains a long journey. Some days are lighter, others heavier. Just when we think we have healed, a song, a smell, or a place can reopen the wound. This is natural. Grief is not a straight line. It is a spiral. We return to it again and again, but each time from a new place with new wisdom. Over time, grief changes. It does not disappear, but it becomes woven into the fabric of who we are. Instead of breaking us, it shapes us. The Buddha compared this to a wound that becomes a scar. The scar does not vanish, but it no longer bleeds. It reminds us of the pain, but also of the healing. In the same way, grief becomes part of our story, but not the whole story. We carry it, but it does not crush us. It teaches us, but it does not define us. One of the greatest lessons of grief is interconnection. When we lose someone we love, we realize how deeply our lives are entwined. Their absence shows us the threads that bound us together. But if we look closely, we also see that those threads remain. Our loved ones live on in the lessons they taught, the kindness they showed, the ways they shaped our hearts. In this sense, death does not erase them. It transforms them. They become part of us, part of the larger fabric of life. There is a teaching in Buddhism called interbeing. It means nothing exists alone. A leaf is not only a leaf, it is also sunlight, rain, soil, and tree. In the same way, our loved ones are not separate from us. They live in our memories, in our actions, in the ripples they created. When Michael laughed with his children, he felt his wife's joy. When Aiko served her community, she felt her ancestors' strength. Grief softened as they recognized that love does not die. It simply changes form. As we reflect on grief, we also reflect on gratitude. For every loss points to something once treasured. We grieve because we had something precious. Gratitude does not erase grief, but it balances it. It allows us to say, yes, I am in pain, but I am also thankful. Thankful for the years shared, for the love received, for the memories that remain. Gratitude does not deny the hurt, but it gives it meaning. It turns mourning into honor, sorrow into appreciation. Still, grief also challenges us to face our own mortality. Each loss reminds us that we too will one day be gone. This can create fear, but it can also create clarity. Death is not a punishment. It is part of life. To accept this is to live more fully, to waste less time, to love more deeply. The Buddha encouraged meditation on death not to depress us, but to awaken us. When we remember that life is fragile, every moment becomes more precious. As we close this doorway, let us carry these truths. Grief is painful, but it is also sacred. It shows us the depth of our love, the reality of impermanence, the universality of suffering, and the power of compassion. It teaches us to cherish the present, to honor the past, and to open our hearts to others. Loss will always be part of life, but with awareness, compassion, and gratitude, loss can become a teacher rather than a destroyer. From the silence of grief, our journey now turns to another challenge of modern life: loneliness. In a world more connected than ever, people feel more isolated than before. Phones buzz, screens glow, messages flood in, but the human heart still longs for true connection. To understand loneliness and the Buddhist path to freedom from it is our next step. Loneliness is one of the most piercing pains of modern life. It is not simply being alone. It is the feeling of being unseen, unheard, disconnected, even in the midst of people. A person can sit at a crowded table, surrounded by conversation and laughter, yet feel an emptiness inside. A person can scroll through hundreds of messages and photos online, yet feel no true connection. Loneliness is not the absence of company. It is the absence of belonging. And in our age of constant connection, paradoxically, loneliness has grown like a silent epidemic. Why is loneliness so widespread today? Technology has given us tools to communicate instantly, but not necessarily to connect deeply. Social media offers glimpses of others' lives, but often leaves us comparing rather than bonding. Work consumes long hours, leaving little time for nurturing relationships. Families scatter across cities, states, and countries, breaking the close-knit communities of the past. Even in neighborhoods, doors stay closed, curtains drawn, each family isolated in their private world. The result is a quiet hunger for connection, a longing to be truly seen. This hunger shows itself in many ways. It appears in the person who stays up late watching television, not because they enjoy it, but because silence feels unbearable. It appears in the young adults scrolling endlessly on their phone, searching for a sense of belonging. It appears in the elderly person sitting by the window, watching the world pass by, waiting for a visitor who may never come. Loneliness does not discriminate. It touches the young and old, the rich and poor, the single and married. It is a human condition, made sharper by the disconnection of modern life. Consider Rachel, a successful lawyer in her 30s. From the outside, she had everything: career, apartment, social life. Yet she confessed one night to a friend, "I feel like no one really knows me. People know my achievements, my image, but not me." She went to parties, but felt invisible. She dated, but felt no true intimacy. Even her family, though loving, seemed distant. Rachel was not alone in numbers, but alone in heart. Her loneliness was not solved by company. Because what she longed for was not presence, but connection. Buddhist wisdom looks deeply at loneliness. It teaches that the root of loneliness lies in the illusion of separateness. We believe ourselves to be isolated selves, cut off from others and from the world. This illusion creates a sense of exile, as though we are strangers in our own lives. Yet the truth the Buddha taught is interconnection. We are not separate. We are part of a vast web of life. Each breath depends on trees. Each meal depends on countless hands that grew, transported, and prepared the food. Each smile depends on the presence of others. To remember this truth is to soften loneliness. It reminds us that even when we feel isolated, we are never truly alone. The practice of mindfulness helps reveal this interconnection. When sitting quietly, notice the breath. The air you breathe was exhaled by trees, shaped by winds, shared by all beings. The body you sit in is made of food, water, earth, and sunlight. The thoughts in your mind are shaped by teachers, books, conversations, and culture. You are not an isolated self. You are the world in human form. This realization transforms loneliness into belonging. You belong because you are part of everything. But intellectual understanding is not enough. We need lived connection. This is where the practice of presence becomes vital. True connection does not require many people. It requires deep attention. To sit with another and truly listen without distraction, without judgment, creates a bond stronger than 1,000 casual conversations. To share honestly, without pretense, creates intimacy. Loneliness thrives on surfaces, on shallow talk, on polished images. Connection thrives on depth, on vulnerability, on authenticity. Rachel discovered this when she joined a mindfulness group. At first, she resisted. The silence felt awkward. The sharing felt uncomfortable. But as weeks passed, she began to feel something new. People in the group listened without interrupting, without offering advice, without judgment. For the first time in years, Rachel felt seen. Her loneliness softened, not because she was surrounded by many, but because she was met with presence. She realized that loneliness is not cured by numbers. It is cured by depth. Another practice for loneliness is loving kindness meditation, or metta. In this practice, we repeat phrases of goodwill. May I be happy. May I be safe. May I be healthy. May I live with ease. Then we extend them outward, to loved ones, to neutral people, even to those we struggle with. Finally, we extend them to all beings. This practice reminds us that love is not dependent on others' presence. It is a quality we can generate from within. When the heart radiates loving kindness, loneliness fades because we discover connection. In the very act of wishing others well. If loneliness also requires courage. Courage to reach out, to be vulnerable, to risk rejection. Many remain lonely because they fear opening up. They fear saying, I need connection. But Buddhist teaching encourages humility. To admit our need is not weakness. It is honesty. And honesty is the first step toward connection. When Rachel finally told her friend, I feel lonely, the friend replied, so do I. What they had hidden in silence became a bridge between them. Their shared vulnerability created a bond that had been missing for years. Still, we must recognize that even with practice, moments of loneliness will come. No path erases it completely, but we can learn to meet loneliness differently. Instead of seeing it as proof of failure, we can see it as a reminder. I long for connection because I am human. Loneliness then becomes a teacher, pointing. Used toward compassion. If we feel it, others feel it too. Our own loneliness becomes the doorway to greater kindness. There is a Zen saying, when you are lonely, remember the moon. It shines alone in the night sky, yet its light belongs to all. In the same way, we may feel alone at times, but our presence still matters. Our kindness still ripples outward. Our love still touches lives, even in silence. We are never as separate as we think. From this perspective, loneliness becomes not just an emptiness to escape, but a call to connection with ourselves, with others, with the world. And as we answer this call, we begin to transform loneliness into belonging, isolation into intimacy, exile into home. But loneliness is not the only shadow of the modern mind. Closely tied to it is depression, the heavy fog that drains life of color and hope. To explore depression and the Buddhist path to healing its weight will be our next step. Loneliness, at its deepest level, is not only about missing others. It is about missing ourselves. Many people live surrounded by activity, yet they feel hollow inside because they are disconnected from their own being. They fill their days with noise, tasks, and entertainment, not because they are fulfilled, but because they fear the silence of meeting themselves. This is why even in a crowded city, loneliness thrives. It is not solved only by adding people. It is healed by restoring connection first inward, then outward. The Buddha spoke of solitude not as isolation, but as sacred space. He often retreated into forests, not to escape others, but to touch the depth of his own mind. Solitude, when practiced mindfully, is not loneliness. It is communion with breath, with earth, with life itself. Loneliness says, I am abandoned. Solitude says, I am part of everything. The difference lies in awareness. If we enter silence with fear, it becomes loneliness. If we enter it with openness, it becomes freedom. Consider Jacob, an elderly man who lost his partner and lived alone. For years, his house felt like a prison of silence. He left the television on all day, just to fill the void. But when he began a daily practice of mindful sitting, everything changed. At first, the silence was painful. The loneliness felt louder. But gradually, he noticed the sound of birds outside his window, the rhythm of his breath, the simple peace of just being. He realized he was not alone. Life surrounded him. The silence was not empty. It was full. His loneliness transformed into a deeper sense of presence. This shift reveals a profound truth. Loneliness is not always solved by others. Sometimes it is healed by rediscovering our own company. When we learn to sit with ourselves without fear, we no longer feel abandoned. We discover that we are our own companion. And from this foundation, our connections with others grow stronger. Because they are no longer fueled by desperation. They are fueled by wholeness. Still, human beings are social by nature. We do need each other. The Buddha built the Sangha, the community of practitioners, because he knew that no one walks the path alone. The Sangha is not only about teachings, it is about belonging. It is about being surrounded by others who share the journey, who remind us that we are supported. For those struggling with loneliness, finding such a community can be life-changing. Whether it is a meditation group, a circle of friends, or even one trusted companion, community gives us roots. It reminds us that we are seen, valued, and held. Rachel, the lawyer who once felt invisible, found this in her mindfulness group. What began as awkward silence became a source of strength. The group met weekly, and slowly bonds formed. They shared struggles, joys, fears, and hopes. They did not fix each other. They simply listened. Over time, Rachel realized that she was no longer invisible. She was part of a circle where she belonged. Her loneliness softened, replaced by gratitude. Another practice that heals loneliness is service. When we give to others, we remember our place in the web of life. Volunteering, helping neighbors, offering kindness to strangers, these acts reconnect us. Loneliness shrinks when we see that our presence matters, that we can ease another's suffering. Service turns isolation into contribution. It transforms the question, who is there for me, into who can I be there for? And in serving others, we discover that connection is not something we wait for. It is something we create. There is also wisdom in balancing solitude and connection. Too much isolation feeds loneliness. Too much company without depth also feeds loneliness. The path lies in balance. Time to sit quietly and know ourselves. Time to reach out and share with others. Like the rhythm of breath, inhaling and exhaling, we need both. Solitude to renew, connection to belong. When we honor both, loneliness has less space to grow. But what about those moments when loneliness feels overwhelming, when no practice seems to ease it? Then, the teaching of impermanence becomes vital. Loneliness, like all emotions, is not permanent. It feels eternal in the moment, but it passes. By remembering this, we do not panic. We breathe, we wait. We trust that this too will change. The night may feel endless, but dawn always comes. There is a parable of a monk who walked into a dark cave. He was afraid, thinking the darkness would swallow him, but as he sat quietly, his eyes adjusted. He began to see shapes, walls, even the exit. Loneliness is like that cave. At first, it feels like endless darkness, but if we sit with it patiently, light appears. We see more clearly. We realize we are not trapped. The way out is through awareness. Ultimately, loneliness is not only a personal problem. It is a mirror of our society. A culture that values productivity over presence, image over intimacy, speed over stillness, will naturally breed loneliness. Healing it requires not only individual practice, but collective change. We must build communities that prioritize connection, workplaces that value human well-being, families that nurture presence. Each of us has a role in shaping such a culture. Every act of presence, every moment of compassion, every bridge of connection is a seed planted against the epidemic of loneliness. So, as we close this doorway, let us carry these truths. Loneliness is real, but it is not permanent. It arises from the illusion of separateness, but it can be transformed through awareness, presence, community, and compassion. Loneliness reminds us of our longing to belong, and belonging is already here, in the breath, in the web of life, in the connections we create each day. From the shadow of loneliness, we now turn to another heavy burden of the modern heart, depression. Unlike loneliness, which longs for connection, depression is the weight that dims even the will to reach out. It is the fog that covers joy, the heaviness that makes life feel colorless. To understand depression and to bring the light of Buddhist practice to its darkness will be our next step. Depression is one of the most misunderstood forms of suffering. To those who have not experienced it, it may look like sadness, laziness, or weakness. But those who have lived inside it know the truth. Depression is not just sadness. It is an emptiness that drains color from the world. It is a heaviness in the body, a fog in the mind, a silence in the heart. It is waking up and feeling no reason to rise. It is smiling on the outside while feeling hollow inside. Depression does not shout. It whispers, slowly convincing the mind that nothing matters. In modern society, depression has grown to staggering levels. The pressures of work, the isolation of technology, the breakdown of community, all create fertile ground for despair. And unlike moments of ordinary sadness, depression lingers. It can last weeks, months, even years. It is not always dramatic. Sometimes it is subtle. A slow loss of interest, a quiet withdrawal, a dimming of spirit. This makes it even more dangerous because it hides beneath the surface. Many live outwardly normal lives while secretly carrying unbearable weight. Consider Sarah, a mother of two who seemed to have it all. She worked, cared for her family, maintained a home, yet inside she felt numb. She no longer found joy in her children's laughter, in her hobbies, in her marriage. She woke each morning with dread, not from external crisis, but from internal emptiness. When friends asked, "How are you?" she smiled and said, "I'm fine." But inside, she was drowning. This is the face of depression, hidden, silent, yet profoundly painful. The Buddha did not use the modern word depression, but he understood this suffering. He called it dukkha, a deep dissatisfaction with life. He saw that when the mind clings to craving and resists impermanence, despair grows. Depression often comes when our illusions collapse, when what once gave meaning no longer satisfies, when the future feels hopeless, when we cannot imagine escape, despair sets in. Yet the Buddha also taught that no suffering is permanent and no suffering is without cause. If there is a cause, there is also a path to healing. One of the first steps in facing depression is to recognize it without shame. Many who suffer blame themselves. They think, "I should be stronger. I should be happier. Others have it worse." But this judgment only deepens the wound. Depression is not weakness. It is a condition of the mind shaped by countless causes, biological, psychological, social. Just as a body can fall ill, so can the mind. Compassion begins when we stop blaming and start caring. To say gently to oneself, "I am suffering. I need kindness." Mindfulness offers a way to meet depression without being consumed by it. Instead of fighting the fog, we observe it. We notice the heaviness in the body, the dullness in thought, the emptiness in emotion. We say, "This is depression. This is what it feels like." By naming it, we create a little distance. We are not the depression. We are the awareness that sees it. Even in the darkest moment, awareness remains untouched, like the sky behind the clouds. But mindfulness alone may not always be enough. Depression can be so heavy that professional help is needed. Buddhist teaching does not reject medicine or therapy. It embraces them as skillful means. Just as a sick body may need a doctor, a suffering mind may need counseling, treatment, or community support. Seeking help is not failure. It is wisdom. It is the recognition that we cannot always heal alone. Still, Buddhist practice adds unique medicine. One of its most powerful antidotes is compassion for oneself and for others. Depression often isolates, convincing us we are alone in our pain. But when we remember that countless others suffer too, something shifts. Our pain is not a private prison. It is part of the shared human experience. This realization does not erase depression, but it lessens the shame. And when we extend compassion outward, wishing others freedom from despair, we awaken a light within ourselves. Even a small act of kindness, like helping a neighbor or sending a kind message, can soften the weight of depression. Another practice is gratitude. Depression narrows vision, making us see only what is dark. Gratitude widens vision, reminding us of small lights still present. This is not forced positivity. It is gentle noticing. A warm cup of tea, a bird singing, a kind word. Each small gratitude is like a candle in the dark. Alone, it may not banish the night, but many candles together can guide us through. Sarah, the mother lost in numbness, discovered this slowly. At her therapist's suggestion, she began writing down one thing each day she was grateful for. At first, it felt hollow, but over time, she noticed more. The softness of her child's hand, the comfort of her favorite blanket, the beauty of a sunset. These small sparks did not cure her depression overnight, but they reminded her that joy was still possible. They gave her a thread to hold on to, leading her out of despair. The Buddha also taught the importance of right effort, not forcing the mind into joy, but cultivating wholesome states patiently. For those in depression, effort may mean something very small. Getting out of bed, taking a walk, speaking honestly to a friend. Each small act is a victory. Each is a step on the path. Depression says, nothing matters. Right effort says, this step matters. Over time, steps become movement, and movement becomes change. Yet we must also be careful. Depression is not always lifted quickly. Some days will feel heavier than others. In such times, the teaching of impermanence is crucial. Even the deepest despair is not eternal. It rises, it stays, it passes. This truth may not comfort immediately, but it offers hope. No storm lasts forever. No night is endless. Even this will change. Perhaps the deepest teaching in relation to depression is the teaching of no self. Depression often feels like, I am broken. I am worthless. I am darkness. But when we look closely, we see that these are thoughts, not truths. The self that depression criticizes is not solid. It is a collection of passing conditions. Depression is not who we are. It is something moving through us. When we stop identifying with it, we stop being trapped by it. We realize this is depression, but I am more than this. I am the awareness that holds even this pain. And so, as we close the first half of this doorway, let us remember, depression is heavy, but not permanent. It whispers lies, but they are not truth. Healing may take time, support, and patience, but it is possible. Each breath, each act of compassion, each moment of awareness is a step toward light. Depression may cover the sky, but behind it, the sun of awareness still shines. In the second half, we will go deeper. We will explore how to live with depression day by day, how Buddhist practice offers resilience, and how meaning can be rediscovered even in the midst of despair. To live with depression is to live with weight. The mornings feel heavy, the days feel long, the nights feel restless. But living with depression does not mean surrendering to it. It means learning how to carry the weight with patience, how to lighten it little by little, how to remember that, even in darkness, the path of healing is still present. Buddhist practice offers not a quick cure, but a steady hand, a set of tools that, when used consistently, help transform despair into resilience. One of the most practical teachings is mindfulness of small victories. Depression convinces us that nothing matters, that no action is worth taking. The antidote is to recognize the significance of even the smallest steps. Rising from bed, brushing teeth, preparing a meal, these may seem trivial to a healthy mind. But for someone in depression, they are profound achievements. The Buddha taught that progress is built drop by drop, like water filling a jar. Each small action is a drop of strength. Over time, the jar fills. Over time, the weight shifts. Another important teaching is the cultivation of joy, even in modest forms. Depression tells us that joy is gone forever. But joy is not always fireworks. Sometimes it is subtle, quiet, like a breeze on the skin or the warmth of tea in the hands. Buddhist practice encourages us to notice these small joys, to let them register fully. This is called savoring. To savor is to give the heart permission to feel pleasure without dismissing it. Each moment of genuine joy, however small, becomes a medicine for the heavy mind. Sarah, the mother who once felt numb, practiced this. She began pausing to notice when her child smiled, not rushing past it, but allowing the warmth to enter her heart. She noticed the sound of rain and let it soothe her, instead of ignoring it. Slowly, these moments built a thread of light through her days. They did not erase her depression, but they gave her islands of relief. With time, the islands connected, forming a bridge out of despair. The practice of compassion is equally vital. Depression often carries a cruel inner voice. You are worthless. You will never change. You are a burden. Meeting this voice with anger only deepens suffering. Meeting it with compassion changes everything. When the voice arises, place A hand on the heart can say, I hear your pain. I know you are suffering. May you be at peace. At first, this may feel strange, but with practice, the inner dialogue softens. Compassion is like cool water on a burning wound. It soothes, heals, and restores dignity. Community is another pillar of healing. The Buddha built the Sangha because he knew that support is essential. Depression isolates, convincing us to withdraw, but connection is medicine. Speaking honestly to a trusted friend, joining a group, or simply sitting with others in silence can ease the sense of exile. We do not need to fix each other. We need to remind each other, you are not alone. Sometimes the mere presence of another is enough to keep the flame of hope alive. Yet depression also demands honesty about limits. There are times when meditation feels impossible, when gratitude feels hollow, when compassion feels out of reach. In such moments, the most important practice is patience. The Buddha often used the image of a farmer tending his field. The farmer cannot force crops to grow. He prepares the soil, waters the ground, waits for the sun. In the same way, healing requires preparation and patience. Depression may linger, but seeds of awareness and compassion are still growing beneath the surface. One day, they will bloom. It is also essential to integrate professional support when needed. Buddhist practice is not in conflict with therapy or medicine. In fact, it aligns beautifully. Mindfulness strengthens therapy. Compassion complements medicine. The path to healing is wide enough to include many tools. Seeking professional help is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of wisdom, a recognition that healing often requires many hands, many hearts, many methods. Another layer of depression is existential despair, the feeling that life has no meaning. This can be the most painful aspect because it strikes at the root of our being. The Buddha faced this question directly. Before his awakening, he asked, why do we live only to age, grow sick, and die? What is the purpose of all this suffering? His answer was not to deny the despair, but to look through it. He discovered that meaning is not something given from outside. It is found in how we live, in the compassion we show, in the awareness we cultivate. For someone in depression, meaning may feel distant, but it can be rebuilt in small ways. Helping a child with homework, caring for a pet, tending a garden, each act of care is meaning. Depression narrows vision, making the future look empty. But meaning is not in the distant future. It is in the present moment, in the choices we make now. Each time we choose kindness, presence, or patience, we affirm that life has value, even in the midst of pain. There is a story of a monk who once fell into deep despair. He felt his practice was useless, his life meaningless. He went to his teacher, who told him, "Go sweep the floor." The monk obeyed. After sweeping, he returned. Still depressed, the teacher said, "Go fetch water." Again, the monk obeyed. Slowly, through ordinary tasks, he realized the teaching. Meaning is not something to think about endlessly. It is something to live moment by moment. Even sweeping the floor can be sacred when done with awareness. In the darkest times, remembering impermanence is also essential. Depression convinces us that the darkness will never end, but impermanence assures us everything changes. No emotion, however heavy, is permanent. Each wave rises and falls. Even if hope feels absent, change is inevitable. This truth does not erase the pain, but it plants a seed of patience. It whispers, "This too will pass." Ultimately, the deepest healing comes from recognizing that we are not defined by depression. Depression may visit, but it is not our identity. The self it criticizes, the I, who is worthless, hopeless, broken, is not solid. It is a construction of thoughts, changing moment by moment. The Buddha called this anatta, no fixed self. When we see this, we stop believing the lies depression tells. We realize, I am not this darkness. I am the awareness that sees it. I am the space in which even this pain arises and passes. And so, as we close this doorway, let us remember, depression is real, but it is not the end of the story. It is a chapter, not the whole book. Healing is possible, step by step, breath by breath. With mindfulness, compassion, community, patience, and professional support when needed, the fog can lift. The colors can return. Life once dim can shine again. From the shadow of depression, our journey now turns to the realm of anger. Anger is different from despair. It burns hot, not cold. It can destroy relationships, communities, even nations. But like all emotions, anger too can be transformed. In our next step, we will explore how Buddhist wisdom teaches us not to suppress anger, but to turn its fire into clarity, courage, and compassion. Anger is fire. It burns hot, fast, and fierce. In one moment, it can ignite, and in another, it can consume everything around it, relationships, peace of mind, even our own health. We all know this fire. It rises when someone insults us, when life feels unfair, when injustice stares us in the face. At first, it can feel powerful, almost energizing. But left unchecked, anger always harms. It harms others through harsh words or actions, and it harms us through stress, tension, and regret. In the second half, we will go deeper. We will explore how to live with depression day by day, how Buddhist practice offers resilience, and how meaning can be rediscovered even in the midst of despair. That to live with depression is to live with weight. The mornings feel heavy, the days feel long, the nights feel restless. But living with depression does not mean surrendering to it. It means learning how to carry the weight with patience, how to lighten it little by little, how to remember that, even in darkness, the path of healing is still present. Buddhist practice offers not a quick cure, but a steady hand, a set of tools that, when used consistently, help transform despair into resilience. One of the most practical teachings is mindfulness of small victories. Depression convinces us that nothing matters, that no action is worth taking. The antidote is to recognize the significance of even the smallest steps. Rising from bed, brushing teeth, preparing a meal, these may seem trivial to a healthy mind. But for someone in depression, they are profound achievements. The Buddha taught that progress is built drop by drop, like water filling a jar. Each small action is a drop of strength. Over time, the jar fills. Over time, the weight shifts. Another important teaching is the cultivation of joy, even in modest forms. Depression tells us that joy is gone forever. But joy is not always fireworks. Sometimes it is subtle, quiet, like a breeze on the skin or the warmth of tea in the hands. Buddhist practice encourages us to notice these small joys, to let them register fully. This is called savoring. To savor is to give the heart permission to feel pleasure without dismissing it. Each moment of genuine joy, however small, becomes a medicine for the heavy mind. Sarah, the mother who once felt numb, practiced this. She began pausing to notice when her child smiled, not rushing past it, but allowing the warmth to enter her heart. She noticed the sound of rain and let it soothe her, instead of ignoring it. Slowly, these moments built a thread of light through her days. They did not erase her depression, but they gave her islands of relief. With time, the islands connected, forming a bridge out of despair. The practice of compassion is equally vital. Depression often carries a cruel inner voice. You are worthless. You will never change. You are a burden. Meeting this voice with anger only deepens suffering. Meeting it with compassion changes everything. When the voice arises, place a hand on the heart and say, I hear your pain. I know you are suffering. May you be at peace. At first, this may feel strange, but with practice, the inner dialogue softens. Compassion is like cool water on a burning wound. It soothes, heals, and restores dignity. Community is another pillar of healing. The Buddha built the Sangha because he knew that support is essential. Depression isolates, convincing us to withdraw, but connection is medicine. Speaking honestly to a trusted friend, joining a group, or simply sitting with others in silence can ease the sense of exile. We do not need to fix each other. We need to remind each other, you are not alone. Sometimes the mere presence of another is enough to keep the flame of hope alive. Yet depression also demands honesty about limits. There are times when meditation feels impossible, when gratitude feels hollow, when compassion feels out of reach. In such moments, the most important practice is patience. The Buddha often used the image of a farmer tending his field. The farmer cannot force crops to grow. He prepares the soil, waters the ground, waits for the sun. In the same way, healing requires preparation and patience. Depression may linger, but seeds of awareness and compassion are still growing beneath the surface. One day, they will bloom. It is also essential to integrate professional support when needed. Buddhist practice is not in conflict with therapy or medicine. In fact, it aligns beautifully. Mindfulness strengthens therapy. Compassion complements medicine. A path to healing is wide enough to include many tools. Seeking professional help is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of wisdom, a recognition that healing often requires many hands, many hearts, many methods. Another layer of depression is existential despair, the feeling that life has no meaning. This can be the most painful aspect because it strikes at the root of our being. The Buddha faced this question directly. Before his awakening, he asked, "Why do we live only to age, grow sick, and die? What is the purpose of all this suffering?" His answer was not to deny the despair, but to look through it. He discovered that meaning is not something given from outside. It is found in how we live, in the compassion we show, in the awareness we cultivate. For someone in depression, meaning may feel distant, but it can be rebuilt in small ways. Helping a child with homework, caring for a pet, tending a garden, each act of care is meaning. Depression narrows vision, making the future look empty. But meaning is not in the distant future. It is in the present moment, in the choices we make now. Each time we choose kindness, presence, or patience, we affirm that life has value, even in the midst of pain. There is a story of a monk who once fell into deep despair. He felt his practice was useless, his life meaningless. He went to his teacher, who told him, "Go sweep the floor." The monk obeyed. After sweeping, he returned. Still depressed, the teacher said, "Go fetch water." Again, the monk obeyed. Slowly, through ordinary tasks, he realized the teaching. Meaning is not something to think about endlessly. It is something to live, moment by moment. Even sweeping the floor can be sacred when done with awareness. In the darkest times, remembering impermanence is also essential. Depression convinces us that the darkness will never end, but impermanence assures us everything changes. No emotion, however heavy, is permanent. Each wave rises and falls. Even if hope feels absent, change is inevitable. This truth does not erase the pain, but it plants a seed of patience. It whispers, "This too will pass." Ultimately, the deepest healing comes from recognizing that we are not defined by depression. Depression may visit, but it is not our identity. The self it criticizes, the I, who is worthless, hopeless, broken, is not solid. It is a construction of thoughts, changing moment by moment. The Buddha called this anitta, no fixed self. When we see this, we stop believing the lies depression tells. we realize, I am not this darkness. I am the awareness that sees it. I am the space in which even this pain arises and passes. And so, as we close this doorway, let us remember, depression is real, but it is not the end of the story. It is a chapter, not the whole book. Healing is possible, step by step, breath by breath. With mindfulness, compassion, community, patience, and professional support when needed, the fog can lift. The colors can return. Life, once dim, can shine again. From the shadow of depression, our journey now turns to the realm of anger. Anger is different from despair. It burns hot, not cold. It can destroy relationships, communities, even nations. But like all emotions, anger too can be transformed. In our next step, we will explore how Buddhist wisdom teaches us not to suppress anger, but to turn its fire into clarity, courage, and compassion. Anger is fire. It burns hot, fast, and fierce. In one moment, it can ignite, and in another, it can consume everything around it, relationships, peace of mind, even our own health. We all know this fire. It rises when someone insults us, when life feels unfair, when injustice stares us in the face. At first, it can feel powerful, almost energizing. But left unchecked, anger always harms. It harms others through harsh words or actions, and it harms us through stress, tension, and regret. Consider Emily, a mother who struggled with impatience toward her son. She often snapped when he disobeyed, just as her father had done to her. But after beginning a practice of mindful breathing, she learned to pause before speaking. One evening, when her son spilled juice, anger rose as usual. But instead of shouting, she took 3 breaths. The fire cooled, and she said calmly, "Let's clean this together." Her son looked at her with surprise and relief. In that moment, a chain of anger passed down for generations was interrupted. Emily's choice planted seeds of peace for her child's future. In society, anger often grows from injustice. When people are oppressed, silenced, or mistreated, anger is natural. To deny it would be inhuman. But left untransformed, social anger can breed hatred, division, and violence. The Buddha taught that hatred never ceases by hatred. It only ceases by love. This does not mean ignoring injustice. It means responding with clarity and compassion, not blind rage. History has shown that lasting change is built not only on resistance, but on love. Leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. and Mahatma Gandhi embodied this. They acknowledged anger, but transformed it into nonviolent action, fueled by compassion for all, even their opponents. This transformation requires practice on both personal and collective levels. On a personal level, it means noticing anger before it erupts, breathing with it, and choosing skillful action. On a collective level, it means creating spaces for dialogue, for listening, for healing. When communities gather not to fight, but to understand, anger can be channeled into constructive energy. Instead of burning bridges, it builds them. Instead of deepening wounds, it begins to heal them. Another dimension of anger is self-directed anger. Many carry rage against themselves, for mistakes made, for goals not achieved, for flaws they cannot erase. This inner anger can be even more destructive than external rage. It corrodes self-worth, fuels depression, and blocks growth. The Buddhist antidote is self-compassion. To treat ourselves as we would a friend. To say, "I forgive you. You are human. You are worthy of love." Self-compassion cools the fire turned inward. It allows us to heal from within, so we do not project our anger outward onto others. Daniel, who once carried anger at his father, also carried anger at himself. He judged himself harshly for not being enough, not successful enough, not patient enough, not strong enough. His practice of compassion for his father eventually turned inward. He began to tell himself, "I am doing my best. I deserve kindness too." Slowly, the anger he had carried for decades softened. For the first time, he felt at peace not only with his father, but with himself. It is important to note that anger, when suppressed, does not disappear. It hides in the body-tight shoulders, clenched jaws, headaches, stomach pain. Over time, this suppressed fire harms physical health. This is why Buddhist practice does not advocate suppression, but transformation. We must feel the anger, breathe with it, understand it, and release it. Only then does the body relax, the mind clear, the heart heal. There is a story of two monks walking together. One was insulted by a villager and grew furious. Hours later, he was still complaining. The other monk said, "Why are you still carrying him? He insulted you once, but you have carried him all day." This story reveals the burden of anger. The harm is not only in the insult, but in our choice to hold on to it. Letting go does not mean forgetting or condoning. It means freeing ourselves from being prisoners of the past. Practical tools for transforming anger include meditation on compassion, mindful breathing, and body awareness. But another powerful tool is reflection. Ask yourself, what is the root of this anger? What fear or hurt lies beneath? Anger is often a mask for deeper emotions: fear of rejection, grief over loss, longing for respect. When we see the root, we can address the true wound rather than fighting the surface fire. Anger then becomes a guide to deeper healing. At its core, anger teaches us about attachment. We are angry because something threatens what we cling to: our pride, our desires, our expectations. By loosening attachment, we loosen anger. The Buddha once said, "Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other to die." When we release attachment, we release the poison. What remains is clarity, courage, and compassion. And so, as we close this doorway, let us remember, anger is fire. Left uncontrolled, it destroys. But understood, it can illuminate. Each flare of anger is an invitation to practice, to breathe, to feel, to understand, to transform. Each time we choose compassion over rage, we cool the fire. Each time we release attachment, we free ourselves. From the fire of anger, we now turn to the final challenge on our journey, the search for meaning and purpose. Even when we quiet stress, soothe anxiety, ease grief, and transform anger, many still ask, what is the point of it all? Why am I here? This longing for purpose and the Buddhist path to answering it will be our next and final step. Every human being, no matter where they are born or how they live, eventually asks the same question: why am I here? Beneath our daily struggles, with stress, money, relationships, anxiety, grief, loneliness, depression, and anger lies this deeper longing. It is the question that comes in quiet moments, in the middle of the night, in times of transition or loss. What is the purpose of my life? In modern society, this question is often silenced by busyness. We fill our schedules, chase careers, build families, consume entertainment. We tell ourselves that purpose will come once we achieve more, once we buy more, once we secure more. Yet beneath the noise, the longing remains. Many reach the top of success only to feel emptier than before. Others lose what they built and wonder if life still has meaning. The truth is, no amount of external achievement can answer the inner question of purpose. Consider Mark, a man who built a thriving business and reached financial freedom by the age of 45. Friends admired him, employees respected him, family depended on him. Yet when he sat alone at night, he felt a gnawing emptiness. I've done everything I was supposed to, he thought. But why doesn't it feel like enough? He had chased society's definition of purpose, success, wealth, recognition, but found himself still searching. Buddhist teaching addresses this search with clarity. The Buddha saw that human beings often mistake craving for purpose. We believe that acquiring more will make life meaningful, but craving only leads to more craving. True purpose, he taught, is not found in endless accumulation, but in awakening. Awakening to the truth of impermanence, to the illusion of self, to the interconnection of all beings. Purpose is not what we chase outside. It is what we realize inside. It is not about what we achieve, but about how we live aware, compassionate, free. This does not mean abandoning the world. It means living in it with wisdom. The Buddha himself lived among people, taught, cared, served. His purpose was not to escape life, but to illuminate it. In the same way, our purpose is not separate from daily life. It is revealed in the way we meet each moment, with awareness instead of distraction, compassion instead of indifference, generosity instead of grasping. Purpose is not a distant destination. It is a way of walking step by step, here and now. But how do we discover this in practice? One way is through presence. When we are fully present, even the simplest acts become meaningful. Drinking tea becomes an expression of gratitude. Speaking with a friend becomes an act of love. Working becomes an opportunity to contribute. Purpose does not always arrive with a grand vision. Often, it is discovered in the ordinary when we bring our whole heart to the moment. Another way is through service. The Buddha taught that compassion is at the heart of a meaningful life. When we ease another's suffering, we touch a purpose greater than ourselves. Service does not need to be dramatic. It can be listening deeply, offering kindness, sharing what we have. Each act of compassion affirms that our life matters because it touches others. This is why so many find meaning in volunteering, caregiving, teaching, mentoring. Service connects us to the greater web of life and reminds us that we are part of something larger. Mark, the businessman, discovered this after years of emptiness. He began volunteering at a local shelter, serving meals once a week. At first, he thought he was simply giving, but soon he realized he was also receiving connection, gratitude, a sense of belonging. For the first time in years, he felt alive. His purpose shifted from building wealth for himself to creating impact for others. He still worked, but his work now served a larger vision. The emptiness that haunted him began to fade. Another dimension of purpose is creativity. When we create, whether through art, writing, cooking, building, or problem solving, we express our unique being. Creativity is not about fame or recognition. It is about bringing forth what is inside and offering it to the world. The Buddha himself encouraged creativity in practice, using metaphors, stories, rituals to help people awaken. Creativity affirms that life is not only survival, but also expression. It turns existence into contribution. But the deepest purpose, according to Buddhist teaching, is liberation. To free ourselves from the cycle of craving, anger, and ignorance. To realize that true happiness does not depend on possessions, status, or even circumstances. It arises from the mind that is awake, compassionate, and at peace. This liberation does not mean withdrawal from life. It means engaging with life without chains. It means loving without clinging, working without greed, living without fear. This is the highest purpose, not to escape life, but to be fully alive in freedom. Still, we must be honest. The search for purpose is not always easy. Sometimes we feel lost, wandering without direction. This, too, is part of the path. The Buddha himself spent years seeking before awakening. Feeling lost is not failure. It is the beginning of questioning, which opens the door to wisdom. Instead of rushing to answers, we can sit with the question, what matters most. In the silence, meaning begins to reveal itself. There is a story of a monk who asked his teacher, "What is the purpose of life?" The teacher replied, "To live." At first, the monk was disappointed. He wanted a grand answer. But with time, he realized the wisdom. Purpose is not a fixed idea. It is the living of each day with awareness, compassion, and authenticity. The more we live fully, the more meaning emerges naturally. As we close this first half of the final doorway, let us carry this truth. Purpose is not found in distant goals or endless achievements. It is discovered in presence, service, creativity, and liberation. Each moment lived with awareness is meaningful. Each act of compassion is purposeful. Each breath taken in freedom is a fulfillment of life itself. In the second half, we will explore how to sustain purpose when life feels uncertain, how to integrate Buddhist wisdom into work, relationships, and society, and how to face death itself with a sense of fulfillment rather than regret. Purpose is not something we discover once and keep forever. It is something we must return to again and again, especially in times of change. Life shifts constantly. Jobs end, relationships evolve, health fluctuates. When circumstances change, our sense of meaning can feel shaken. But Buddhist wisdom reminds us that true purpose is not tied to circumstances. It is rooted in awareness and compassion, which remain possible in every moment, no matter what changes around us. One way to sustain purpose in uncertainty is through reflection. The Buddha encouraged regular reflection on 3 questions. What am I doing with my life? Does it bring benefit to myself and others? Does it lead toward liberation or away from it? These questions cut through distraction. They remind us that purpose is not about how much we accumulate, but about the direction of our actions. Even if life feels uncertain, we can align ourselves with values of awareness, compassion, and service. That alignment becomes our compass, guiding us through uncertainty. Consider Anna, a nurse who worked tirelessly during a health crisis. Exhausted and overwhelmed, she began to question, does any of this matter? But when she reflected on her purpose, she realized that every patient she cared for, every moment of comfort she offered, was meaningful. Even if she could not save every life, her compassion mattered. That realization carried her through the darkest days. Her purpose was not measured in outcomes, but in intention. Work is one area where many struggle with purpose. Some feel trapped in jobs that seem meaningless. Others chase careers only to feel unfulfilled. Buddhist teaching reframes work as a field of practice. Any job, when approached with awareness and compassion, can be purposeful. A cashier greeting customers with kindness, a teacher encouraging a child, a builder constructing with care all contribute to the web of life. Purpose is not about status, but about how we show up. Right livelihood, as taught in the Noble Eightfold Path, is about work that does not harm, that contributes to well-being, that allows us to live with integrity. Relationships are another realm of meaning. We often think of purpose as something grand and individual, but often it is revealed in the love we share. A parent nurturing a child, a friend offering support, a partner walking through life's ups and downs. These acts are deeply purposeful. The Buddha emphasized interconnection. No one lives alone. No one thrives alone. Our relationships are where compassion is practiced daily. They are not distractions from purpose. They are the heart of it. Society, too, calls us to live purposefully. In a world marked by inequality, conflict, and environmental crisis, our actions matter beyond ourselves. Purpose expands when we see ourselves as part of the larger whole. Reducing harm, living sustainably, advocating for justice, all are expressions of purpose. They remind us that our lives are threads in the vast fabric of humanity. Each choice contributes to the pattern of the whole. But what about death? For many, the fear of death is tied to the fear of a meaningless life. We ask, when my time comes, will it have mattered? Buddhist teaching meets this question with profound clarity. The Buddha taught that death is not the end, but a continuation. Just as a flame passes from one candle to another, our actions, words, and intentions ripple beyond us. What matters is not how long we live, but how we live. A short life lived with compassion may touch countless hearts. A long life lived in selfishness may leave little behind. Facing death with purpose means living so fully that when the end comes, we can let go without regret. It means knowing that our love, our kindness, our awareness have left an imprint. It means recognizing that purpose is not measured by scale, but by sincerity. Whether we impact one person or a million, the depth of our intention is what matters. There is a story of a monk who, nearing death, was asked, "What is the most important lesson you have learned?" He replied that every moment is enough. This is the heart of Buddhist purpose, not chasing something outside, but realizing that meaning is always here, in the present. When we live each moment with awareness, compassion, and authenticity, we fulfill our purpose, no matter the outcome. Mark, the businessman who once felt empty, eventually understood this. His purpose was not in the wealth he built, but in the lives he touched. His family, his community, the people he served, these were the marks of his life. When he looked back, he realized that meaning had always been there. He had simply been looking in the wrong direction. And so, as we close this final doorway, let us carry these truths. Purpose is not found in endless striving, but in simple presence. It is not granted by society, but realized within. It is not about scale, but about sincerity. To live purposefully is to live with awareness of impermanence, with compassion for all beings, with courage to be authentic. Each breath lived this way is meaningful. Each step walked this way is purposeful. Our journey through suffering, stress, money, relationships, anxiety, desire, grief, loneliness, depression, anger has shown us that each pain holds a lesson. Each wound carries wisdom. And now, in the search for meaning, we see that purpose is not beyond suffering, but within it. To walk this path is to transform suffering into freedom, craving into compassion, loneliness into connection, anger into clarity. It is to live fully here and now. From the first breath to the last, this is our calling. To awaken, to love, to serve, to be free. When we live this way, our life has meaning. When we live this way, our death has peace. We have walked a long path together. From the restless weight of stress to the hunger for money, from the heartbreak of relationships to the shadow of anxiety, from the fire of desire to the silence of grief, from the ache of loneliness to the fog of depression, from the blaze of anger to the final question of purpose. Each step has revealed suffering, but each step has also revealed a doorway to wisdom, to compassion, to freedom. This journey has not been about escape. It has not been about building walls against pain or pretending that suffering does not exist. It has been about looking directly at life as it is. The Buddha never promised a world without loss, without change, without challenge. What he offered was a way to meet all of it with open eyes and open heart. He taught that suffering is part of the human condition, but suffering does not have to control us. We can live differently. We can live free. The freedom he spoke of is not dramatic. It is quiet, steady, available in every breath. It is the freedom of awareness, of being present without clinging to past or future. It is the freedom of compassion, of choosing kindness over anger, connection over isolation. It is the freedom of wisdom, of seeing impermanence clearly and therefore living each moment fully. This freedom is not a distant goal. It is here in the way we breathe, the way we speak, the way we love. Think of all the pains we have explored. Stress dissolves when we rest in presence. Money loses its grip when we recognize sufficiency. Relationships heal when we practice compassion. Anxiety softens when we breathe into the moment. Desire loosens when we accept impermanence. Grief transforms when we honor love and let go. Loneliness fades when we remember interconnection. Depression lightens when we meet ourselves with compassion. Anger cools when we see the suffering of others. And the question of purpose finds its answer not in distant achievements, but in the way we live each day. Each pain is real. Each solution is simple. But simple does not mean easy. It requires practice, patience, courage. The Buddha called it walking the path. No one else can walk it for us. But we do not walk alone. We walk with generations of teachers, with communities of practitioners, with the shared humanity of all beings. Each step we take toward freedom strengthens the whole. Each act of compassion ripples outward. Each breath of awareness lightens the world. As we stand now at the end of this journey, let us pause and reflect. What have we carried with us? What insights have touched our heart? Perhaps we see our stress differently. Perhaps we understand our grief more gently. Perhaps we feel less alone in our loneliness, less hopeless in our depression, less consumed by our anger. Perhaps we feel a spark of purpose, even if small. These sparks matter. They are seeds of transformation. If we tend them, they grow. The invitation is not to remember every word, but to live the essence. To practice presence in the rush of daily life. To practice compassion in the heat of conflict. To practice gratitude in the midst of loss. To practice patience in the shadow of despair. Each practice is a doorway. Step by step, doorway by doorway, we discover freedom. And freedom is not for us alone. The Buddha taught that awakening is for the benefit of all beings. When we are more present, we offer presence to others. When we are more compassionate, we ease the suffering of others. When we are more peaceful, we create peace around us. Our practice becomes a gift, not through preaching, but through living. Through the way we listen, the way we smile, the way we act with kindness. This is how the world changes not through force, but through presence and love. Let us imagine the impact if even a few of us live this way. Stress softens in workplaces. Compassion grows in families. Patience spreads in communities. Healing ripples across nations. This is not a dream. It is possible because it begins with each of us. We cannot control the whole world, but we can shape our own heart. And when we shape our heart, we shape the world around us. The Buddha compared the mind to a garden. If we plant seeds of greed, anger, and ignorance, we harvest suffering. If we plant seeds of mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom, we harvest peace. The choice is ours moment by moment. What we water grows. What we neglect fades. May we choose to water the seeds of love, presence, and freedom. As we close, remember, you do not need to wait for perfect conditions to practice. You do not need to be free of stress, grief, or anger before you begin. You can begin now, exactly as you are. Take one mindful breath. Speak one kind word. Let go of one resentment. These are enough. These are the path. And when doubts arise, as they surely will, remember this. The Buddha was once a human being, like us. He suffered stress, grief, fear, and anger. He walked the path, not as a god, but as a person. His awakening shows that freedom is possible for anyone who practices. If he could walk the path, so can we. If countless others have walked it since, so can we. And if we walk it now, step by step, we too can taste the freedom of a mind at peace. So let us close with a blessing. May you find peace in the midst of stress. May you find sufficiency in the face of craving. May you find compassion in your relationships, calm in your anxiety, wisdom in your grief, connection in your loneliness, resilience in your depression, clarity in your anger, and purpose in your life. May you awaken to the truth of impermanence, the beauty of interconnection, and the freedom of awareness. And may your awakening ease not only your own suffering, but the suffering of all beings. This is the path. This is the invitation to live fully, to love deeply, to awaken completely. The journey never ends, for each breath is another step. But as we walk, we discover that freedom has always been here. It has always been ours. It is in the stillness of the present moment, waiting for us to notice. The door is open. Step through. Live free.